welcome to the first ever SuperFest and your 2024 Clash Royale League World Finals. The 8 best players from all around the globe have been battling all season for a chance at the coveted golden ticket to Helsinki, Finland, the home of all things Supercell. Here they seek the ultimate title of being crowned our 7th world champion. 3 days of grueling competition, $500,000 on the line, and the distinctive honor of being called greatest in the world.
These players are not only battling each other, but more importantly, they're battling themselves. Will you be able to block out the bright lights and the sound of the crowd? Are you ready to feel your opponent staring you down and still play your game? Are you ready to be a champion?
Who will be lucky number 7? I think it's time to find out. Let's meet our players!
Mohamed Light! LCIOP! Lucas! Griko! Ryley! Pedro! And Sub! The most anticipated weekend of the year has finally arrived. Live from Helsinki, Finland, it is the Clash Royale League 2024 World Finals. Hello, welcome, I'm Rich Slayton. That's my friend Jackson Juicy J Wall, and we are here to crown our 7th CRL champion. Jackson, we've had players, content creators, coaches, fans from around the world coming here all week. I know you are super excited.
You know me, Rich. I'm here for one thing and one thing only, to watch the best duke it out in the arena. There is something special about watching perfect Clash Royale gameplay. It is like fine art.
Well, let's see how they're going to progress to become a world champion. We have the 8 top players competing in a double elimination bracket. You can lose 1 match, but if you lose 2 matches, your dreams are dashed. You are out of the competition. We are doing BO3s in the duel format, meaning you may not repeat cards throughout a match. You play Fireball game 1, you don't have it game 2, you don't have it game 3, and of course, after all of this 3 days of action, the last player standing will be our Clash Royale League champion for 2024. Then that's the 7th champion. It's our 4th solo champion. There's a lot going on, and of course, they aren't just playing for that pride, they're playing for some prizes.
We have a total $500,000 prize pool, with the first place prize being $200,000. Everyone here is walking away with at least 15 grand, reaching towards more money for every win that they get.
And every single win's going to come really, really difficult stakes for them, because these players are at the top level. They are ready to go, and this bracket isn't easy for anyone. As we look at this double elimination journey, we kick things off with something amazing. 2 world champions facing off, our 2022 world champion, Mohamed Light, and the original CRL champion, the last emperor himself, LCIOP. Next up, Lucas and Griko, then Ta and Ryley in what's been the hardest one to call of the weekend. After that, Pedro and Sub in the Battle of the Brazilians, and we're doing 5 matches today, which means one of these 8 players will end their championship journey today on this broadcast.
Yeah, and I can't imagine what that might feel like. I mean, there's just so much happening here. There's so much on the line. There is, I mean, you can just feel the anticipation in the room.
People are certainly ready for this one, and of course, I know we're ready for this. Let's take a look at the caster predictions, who we're picking. Of course, you don't always get them right, but that's what Clash Royale is all about. All 4 of us across the board, no surprises here, picking the Pharaoh, the 2022 world champion. Lucas getting a full boat in our second matchup. But the big debate here, match number 3, split down the middle between us 4, Ta and Ryley. You're joining me with Ryley, Juicy J. That's going to be a tough one either way.
It really is tough. I really could have gone either way on this prediction, like I'm sure all of us would have. But I had to go for Ryley. He's exuding confidence, and he's practicing a lot with Mohamed Light, actually.
Oh, they have been practicing a ton. More on that special relationship later. And of course, you can follow along all the action and get some wonderful in-game rewards yourself. If you haven't yet, go get your picks in right now. event.supercell.com/Clash Royale. Make your picks, see if you can beat us in those ones. And of course, as I said before, get some super cool rewards, including the 2024 Clash Royale League badge.
Yes, a lot of new badges, not only for spectators, but for the first time ever, we have badges for the finalists, but also the world champion.
And take a look at the world champion predictions. Wow. This is your picks at home. 73% of people,
wow,
an unprecedented, insane number, have picked Mohamed Light, but at this point, you can't even call it that crazy.
Yeah, he is simply the best of the best. I even talked to the other players, and they are even confident that they think Mo will win. It's almost as if the level has shifted even further towards him.
But look at number 2. Are you surprised there? The second most votes, the last Emperor, LCIOP.
Yes.
Now keep in mind, LCIOP is a 5-time world finalist, a former world champion. But you have Ta there, you have Ryley there. Excited to see how this one shakes out. And we're not going to waste any more time. Let's go down to the floor where Josh has our first match ready.
The number 1 overall seed in this tournament. He's the greatest of all time, 2022 world champ, Mr. 79% overall win rate himself, Mohamed Light. He's qualified for the World Finals 6 separate times, winner in 2018. He is the greatest player here. Maybe, we don't know yet. It is LCIOP.
What an unbelievably special matchup we have here to kick off our World Finals. The former world champion, multiple-time world finalist, consensus, top 5 of all time. And I'm not even talking about Mohamed Light, Juicy J.
Right, I mean this, like you said, it's the battle of the champions. We have the old guard versus the new guard. We have the best player ever versus the very first world champion in Clash Royale League. I mean, after me saying this, you might think it could really go either way, but I'm very confident in Mohamed Light in my pick here.
A lot of people are, of course. I picked Mohamed Light as well as you. I think I picked Mohamed Light against a deity at this point.
Yeah.
It's so stacked. But the disrespect we've heard towards LCIOP this week has been astounding. You're talking about one of only 2 5-time world finalists alongside Morten, the only person to qualify for 6 as he qualified for CCGS in 2017, wasn't able to attend. The CRL China MVP world champion. This is a guy who is more experienced than anybody on here, including Mohamed Light, and he is a crafty veteran. There's no accident that LCIOP is here.
Yeah, and experience means a lot on this stage. We were talking about it last year where a lot of the most experienced players, you know, separate from skill level, were able to win in that first round. And I think it's because there's a lot of nerves on that stage. And we know that Mohamed Light has dealt with that a lot in the past.
And we know one person who's not nervous at all is LCIOP.
Yeah.
He was playing live on stage before we were in the West, as CRL in the East had their own league one season before you began with Team Liquid in 2018. So this is a lot of history here. Very excited for this matchup, of course. Most people are rightly picking Mohamed Light in this one, but I want to get your opinion. What would you say are the odds here? Is this a 60-40 Mohamed, a 70-30 Mohamed? Are we going into the 80-20 range? Where do you put that?
I think I'm actually going to put it at a 90-10 for Mohamed Light if he can get past those nerves. We know that Mohamed Light is known for losing that first round and making a huge lower bracket run like he did in 2022 when he was the world champion.
And those of you picking along at home, we can see 83% of you going with the Pharaoh, 17% for LCIOP, and we heard in this room, one of the biggest pops coming in was for LCIOP, and this is such a popular player, in my opinion, top 5 all time, and the resume for him is phenomenal. The big question that we've been asking a lot is, he's been playing in primarily a different player pool the last couple of years, and does that player pool mean that his skills aren't being sharpened against the best like you have with the Western players?
Yeah, the global arena, iron sharpens iron, Rich, and Mohamed Light's been practicing nonstop. Last year, he lost early, very unexpectedly, versus Adriel, and I think that since then, he's taken that personally towards himself. He's been grinding like no other, and when there's someone with that much talent, practicing that hard, that is a force to be reckoned with.
And one of those big changes for Mohamed Light, speaking with him throughout this week, has been focused on improving with deck picking. Last year, in that elimination match, he had kind of a deck picking mishap live on stage. So working closely with his coach, Julesy, back with his original coach from his 2021 runner-up run against Mugi, they've been focusing on how you do deck construction. And that's a thing that's interesting to talk about with Mohamed Light. His gameplay has always been so great, but thinking about how he continues to want to improve, and the fact that he said deck construction, the way it should be composed is so fascinating.
Yeah, there's a lot to go into it. Like we talked about, it is duels formatting. It's not your normal in-game duels like you play in Clan Wars, but instead, it's no card can be repeated, but you can change your decks in between games. There's a 2-minute break for that to be happening. And it's very, very, very complicated.
It's definitely complicated indeed, but we have no more wait for us. The 2024 Clash Royale League World Finals kicks off right now. So as you've been mentioning, Juicy, a lot of people, including Mohamed and his coach, predicting that LCIOP will go with I believe it was the P.E.K.K.A. Goblin Giant Rage deck, a really easy to use deck here in game number 1. I'd be surprised to see him be that predictable.
And looks like he's not going to. There was a lot of people I talked to that thought it might actually even just be P.E.K.K.A. the back first play. But that's not what we're seeing here, especially with the Evo Ice Spirit.
Shades of Hog so far from Mohamed Light. And Royal Giant, something that LCIOP did run a lot during his qualifying stages in the CRCC to make this World Championship. Did not typically run it with the Ice Wiz, ran a different construction, but curious to see what he has in store for us here.
Monk ability going to drop down to deflect that Archer Queen ability. The Fisherman as well trying to lock onto a cannon. Roll Delivery dropping down. Interesting matchup so far. It's the standard Pigs Earthquake versus a Roll Giant Monk. That Monk is going to be very useful versus the Queen the entire match.
First minute away, and so far just a little bit of chip in both directions. You can see, look at the expressions on their faces, right? You see some deep breaths here. Even for two of the most experienced former world champions, you cannot replicate what it feels like when it's finally happening.
Pigs at the bridge. Does he have the fireball? He does. Wow, this is a great situation for LCIOP. A lot of the time you might see a lightning or maybe even an earthquake with Royal Giant, but that fireball is going to make it so Mohamed Light actually has to split his pigs and split his damage across the towers. Something
he's very good at traditionally, very good at early on, getting dual lane pressure and damage. We'll see if he gets that done here today. The Evo RG drops in the back as we go towards our double elixir time.
I talked to Mohamed Light and Ryley and others, and they said LCIOP is a great player, but maybe his deck picking isn't up to par. But after seeing this, I don't know. I don't think that's true because this is a great matchup for LCIOP.
And Pigs in, LCIOP back to 4. Fireball able to clear the log for the Evo Skeletons. And the RG doesn't get the damage LCIOP wants. Gets a little bit in, but a fairly solid job by Mo to mitigate that damage despite the great play of LCIOP.
Roll Giant in the back yet again. And we know there's going to be another Monk in front of that to stop the Archer Queen. And it's really only going to get worse. Later in the match, we're going to see 2 Royal Giants on the board on each side, which is very difficult to deal with, especially when you don't have a solid tank in your deck.
EQ in early, and Mohamed Light maybe trying to figure out what's going to be the mathematics to get his damage in, and now we go aggressive. RG at the bridge, left-hand lane, switching sides. This one, though, getting handled by the cannon of the Archer Queen. Guard does get a couple of stabs.
Monk, same lane as the Queen yet again, and here comes the split bigs I was talking about. You have to choose which side to fireball. Fireball on the right, guards on the left. Will Mohamed Light get a second Archer Queen ability? Yes, he has it available, but he's not going to use it. LCIOP with the Monk ability to prevent.
Lead now for Mohamed in sudden death overtime, 24-62, top right-hand side of your screen, 23-88 on the bottom. Evo, Ice Spirit plus Cannon to hold against the Royal Giant.
Bigs right away. I really like this pressure while defending, forcing the fireball on defense, using the log as well. LCIOP knows that this game is very close, and wow, and the Ice Spirit doesn't jump.
Was that an overspend by LCIOP with the fireball and the log there? I know he wanted to mitigate all the damage, but you know, instead of a positive trade, now he had a negative one.
Yeah, and the Queen's still alive. He has to log, and here comes the pigs. And watch out for those Evo skeletons. He has to fireball, but look at the damage to the right-hand side.
And you saw he had to wait to make sure that the Evo skeletons and the 2 pigs were together. Pressure from Mohamed Light now giving him the lead with 1:08 left. Keep in mind that while LCIOP does have fireball and log, there's almost no way they're going into a spell cycle situation with his defensive needs.
And here comes the pigs right away with the pre-log plus pre-quake on the guards, allowing for so much damage to come through with these piggies. LCIOP needs to bounce back with a double Royal Giant push if he's going to make this comeback.
Does he double up on that left-hand side, or does he go left-right here? We see the guards and the fishermen on the right-hand side. Evo Skellies, Ice Wiz plus log to clear. Evo RG still fairly healthy. Second Royal Giant right behind it. He needs to break through here. Can he do it?
The Monk is deflecting the Queen and the Cannon. The Royal Giant is walking through. Log dropping down. Ice Spirit does get taken out. Evo Ice Spirit jumps. No, Evo Ice Spirit jumps, and that Royal Giant is locked down.
That cannon, the cycle of Mohamed Light. Picture perfect. Can he hold on? 11 more seconds. This is looking good for Mohamed Light. Cannon to hold. 6 seconds left. Fireball trying to clear. Royal Giant stuck by the cannon, and Mohamed Light wins game number 1.
And that is the defense that we know Mohamed Light for. The Archer Queen, the Cannon cycle, the perfect Ice Spirit placement. I mean, everything was perfect to a T there. Mohamed Light showing why he is the best player in the world.
And just what an interesting situation. We saw the fireball come out, and it really began to feel like, oh, LCIOP might have the answers here. But one of the things we talk about being Mohamed's greatest strength is the ability to process the matchup and figure out what are the ways I'm going to win this in real time, and we saw that happen perfectly right now.
Yeah, I also love how he was always going off lane, and especially right here, I have to point out this prediction. I mean, this is really what won Mohamed Light the game. He goes for the pre-log and the pre-earthquake, taking out the guards, and with the Queen in the opposite lane, it's forcing out opposite lane pressure, but also allowing 3-card cycle for multiple cannons and multiple roll deliveries on defense.
Now, LCIOP on his qualifying run did face someone running the Pigs Archer Queen deck in game number 1, but it was with the Tesla rather than the cannon. In this case, though, he had gone from that. He replied by going with Hog, Monk, Fireball, Log, and so many pieces are gone now. So the big question is, what does LCIOP do in game number 2 for these deck progressions?
It's a good question. I mean, decks, they play a huge factor in these games, but I mean, do we see the bridge spam? I did look at LCIOP's decks before the tournament. He's known for bridge spam. He also likes Mortar Miner, and of course, he's extremely good at a deck like Mohamed Light just played, Pigs and Hog Earthquake.
He did play a lot of Lava along his route, both Lava Loon and Lava Miner. Now, this was back in July, very different meta, but delivery out here, maybe some possibility to see him go to the skies, especially considering that it's not really a popular deck, maybe a bit of a swerve here in those deck picks.
Yeah, now that you say that, if you would have brought Lava in this first game, it would have been extremely successful, with Archer Queen being the only air defense. But now with Cannon out for Mo, I'm wondering if Tesla and Inferno Tower will fill that building slot, really blocking that Lava out.
This is the hard part. This is where the analysts and coaches make their money. But of our 8 players here, only 7 of them are here with a coach.
Yes.
LCIOP being the lone player, completely picking and planning on his own. And that is a different weight to carry, especially on this stage. So you have to wonder. It's been a while since we've seen LCIOP in a solo World Finals in this type of picking environment. We'll see how it goes. Game number 2. Let's do it. And players getting locked in here for their number 2 matchup. The loser here will face the loser of our next match between Lucas and Griko, and Drill for LCIOP.
And a P.E.K.K.A. from Mo. This is the deck that Mo was expecting LCIOP to play. LCIOP really going completely different. And speaking of completely different, we see the Cannoneer Tower. Now that is really not a tower that I expected to see very often during this tournament just because it recently got nerfed, but it seems to be doing very well versus this P.E.K.K.A.
And it's Drill Wall Breakers, the 2 Evos he's choosing as well. Doesn't get the connection courtesy of the Rage. A little funny here to see Mo and Jules talking about this deck all week. This is the deck they expect him to go game number 1, and then see them bring it out alongside our newest champion.
Here comes yet another drill. Next drill will be Evo. I love the placement, pulling everything backwards, allowing the Ghost to splash and connect on tower. Good Fisherman to prevent that second hit, though.
First blood, first significant blood drawn by Mohamed Light, but lead back now. Whoa, Royal Giant in here. This is a whole lot of fun.
The Royal Giant Gobsign ability is unnecessary. The Dark Goblin gets aired out. This Royal Giant extremely healthy on top of this tower. This tower is taking a beating.
The stun certainly mitigating some of that, but down to 1602. And now we'll see, can he make some headway in the opposite direction? 1 wall breaker pulled, 1 does connect. Bandit dashes in, guards to hold, but this is a lot of damage going in the opposite way.
Wow. I mean, both players very light in the defense, very aggressive on the offense, and here comes the offense yet again, the Evo Goblin Drill. What does Mo have to deal with this? The Rage is not what you're looking for.
Snowball in to slow the tower and get a little bit extra damage on there. Now Evo Wall Breakers with the action on the back. Wow. And no ability here, down to 220. Full connection, and Mohamed Light's in trouble in game 2.
And this is a deck LCIOP is known for, whether it be Cannon Card Bridge Spam with the Ram Rider or a Goblin Drill Bridge Spam. He knows how to keep that elixir and apply that pressure. The only question is, can Mo break through with this Evo P.E.K.K.A.?
So far, so good holding. Bandit dashes at a great time, takes both the P.E.K.K.A. and helps cover against the Doctor. Here we go, drill in, 195 remaining, snowball down, 25 HP, 21, gets the stab, LCIOP has the tower down, can he defend for 19 seconds?
Here comes the Goblin Stein and the Fisherman and the guards. The cannon does not pull. Evil Roll Giant is in cycle. Here comes the Goblin Stein ability. Roll Giant is distracted though by the cannon and the Goblin Drill. I think he's got this defense.
Oh my word, this is what you want. Champion versus champion. Game number 3, here we come.
Oh my gosh, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I was talking about in the intro. This is art. I love watching this. This is perfect Clash Royale gameplay.
And certainly one thing we've seen here is that LCIOP is not blinking.
Yeah.
He is taking Mo deep. He's seen it done before. KK in 2022 beat Mohamed Light in the first round. Of course, Mo had the last laugh as our champion in that year, but still, he knows, like everybody, that Mo can be beat.
Yeah, if Mo is going to lose, it's most likely going to be in that first round. The question is, can LCIOP make it happen again? He's used a big skill set here with his bridge spam skill set. I said it twice, but the Bandit, the Ghost, the Drill, the Goblin Stein, just perfect gameplay, but he can't use those cards again in this third game.
And that's the dual mode restrictions, of course. He has played some other bridge spam variants, but each one of them either has the Bandit or the Ghost in it. The question is, does he go that direction? Does he now turn to Lava, as there are some openings there potentially? And honestly, this is gonna come down to the wire, but keep in mind, we just saw Rage out. We've of course seen the delivery out, more and more opening for the deck that got LCIOP to World Finals.
Yeah, and then the other question is, does he use the P.E.K.K.A? I mean, I think Mo is going to have stuff for P.E.K.K.A. I don't think that's the right play. But on the other hand, if Mo's always worried about an opposing P.E.K.K.A, I mean, that's always making his deck a little bit weaker against other things. There's so much dynamics that goes into this.
Oh, and we saw the Cannoneer here. You were asking that question, what's it doing here? But then you're up against P.E.K.K.A Royal Giant. You're getting those big hits on those beefy, tanky units. So some great work here from LCIOP. We were worried about deck picking. Deck picking goes very well in game number 2.
Yeah, I mean, he's been doing great with it so far. Once again, I mean, it's just what is going to happen in this game 3. This game 3 is for all the marbles. I mean, you might have to think, I mean, does nerves just start playing a factor here? And like we've said time and time again, LCIOP, I don't think he has those anymore. He's just grown out of them. He has so much live experience.
Spells out for Mohamed include Delivery, Earthquake, Log, Rage, and Arrows. On LCIOP's side, Fireball, Log, Snowball. So a lot of the spells still remaining for both of these players. Of course, LCIOP with a bit more in terms of wide coverage. And then, of course, Royal Giant played from both players. Champions, Goblinstein played by both. Archer Queen out for Mohamed Light. Monk out for LCIOP.
Yeah, no Goblinstein. I mean, I gotta think it might end up being like a Mortar or Miner control type of deck from Mo here. And then maybe LCIOP bringing those pigs or that Hog EQ, as we know that he likes to do.
Well, we've seen that happen in game number 1, and now you start to go deep into it. The big question here has the deck construction work that Mohamed's been putting in with Julesy come to fruition? We'll find out right now. The swing vote, game number 3. Let's go. And the room is very tense here. It's been a soft murmur as everyone's sitting doing what we're doing, trying to figure out what are they going to do next.
Yeah, let's find out right now as both players are reaching 10 elixir. We say a cage right away from Mo, Goblin Gang from LCIOP, maybe the Mortar deck from LCIOP. And Mo, I know he likes to play Evo Cage even with Cycle decks, so it's not guaranteed to be beat down here.
LCIOP did play some bait, of course, now that we see the Lightning Dragon, probably not. The Electro Dragon, but for a moment, maybe. And Loon.
Wow. So he is going to the skies. And Mo, you are correct. We do see bait. Cage on the board here. The Cage is not really the building you want to have versus this balloon. You'd much rather have a Tesla.
Shouldn't get a drop, but will get death damage as the Brawler goes and gives its punch the opposite direction. Mohamed Light with damage in both lanes. LCIOP chipping that right-hand tower.
And this, once again, is just so fascinating. LCIOP, just great deck picks. He has the Bar Barrel for the Goblin Barrel. He has the arrows for the Princess. He even has the Lava Hound to tank for that balloon. What kind of air defense does Mo have for this last card? I mean, if he has a rocket, that could help, but this is looking very grim for our 2022 champion.
Little Prince and Princess both getting ready to go to work, although the Princess walking away from the Lava Hound. Cage pulls to the middle, and she does retarget towards the Evo Electro Dragon. Bard Barrel picked up by the Fire Spirit plus the Knight. Great protection by Mohamed Light.
Lava Pups are trying to take out this little prince. They are successful, but the Princess will help out, and here comes the Goblin Barrel on the counter push. The Knight is tanking. LCIOP not really playing much. These Goblins are doing so much damage.
Well, maybe some cycle issues there for LCIOP. You've seen him shaking his head a lot in this matchup, and I think that maybe he got his cycle to a position where he was not happy with his ability to defend.
Yeah, he was low in elixir as well, but at least he's up about 1 elixir here. He's able to get that lava. Mo Light decided to use the Princess aggressively to apply pressure opposite lane this time.
And you see him going with the gang to clear the Princess rather than a spell, making sure he's not going to get caught flat-footed by the incoming imminent Evo Barrel.
No Evo Electro Dragon cycle. That makes defense a lot easier. And here comes the Evo Barrel, like you said. Arrows dropping the wrong one. Real Goblins to the right doing massive damage, but now he has to defend.
Lava Hound in, Balloon in, pups all around. Mohamed Light's defense is absolutely picture perfect.
Electro Drag gets a couple shots, but he needs a lot more oomph in his push than that, and yet another Goblin Barrel.
Goes to the inside, easily read by LCIOP. And this has just been so well controlled. You were worried about the air defense, but Little Prince, Princess, Goblin Gang, and the MVP so far has been the Snowball.
Arrows dropping down the gang. Here comes the pre-snowball from Mohamed Light, forcing out the Barbarian Barrel, but now he can out-cycle with this Princess, bait out those arrows, and get another Goblin Barrel down right away.
What does LCIOP have in store to try to battle back into this one? The margins are so thin. Has to cover the left-hand side. Right-hand side is a problem. The Knight touches, down to 59 HP. Princess on the left-hand side, nothing on the right-hand side. GG, well played. Mohamed Light wins the first match of World Finals.
And he finished it with style, the prediction Fire Spear at the end on the Goblin Gang, allowing the Princess to get the tower down. We talked about in the first game how Mohamed Light loves that dual lane pressure and that dual lane damage. He did it perfect.
He did it so beautifully the entire way through, and that's what he's known for. Comes out, plays bait, gets a great situation and even better defensive maneuvers. I cannot wait to hear his thoughts on the match. Andrew, let's talk to Mohamed Light.
My goodness, what an insane way to start our World Finals, everybody. Okay, first question, Mo, you're past round one, you're past the whole Mo does the lower bracket run. How does it feel to be safe for day one?
Oh, I'm very happy that I don't have to play anymore today. I can just take a rest and watch the other players.
Okay, I have to ask about that game number one. It looked, at least to a lot of us, like an impossible matchup. He had the Monk, he had the Fireball. What was your thought process when you started seeing these cards come out to kind of work through that matchup and I think impress everyone here in the room?
I think the main advantage I had was because I was playing pigs a lot on ladder and I faced this type of RG deck many times. So I knew like what I need to do to have a chance at winning.
Let's hear it one more time for our 2022 World Champion, Mohamed Light.
And we talk about that ability to quickly process a matchup, and Mohamed Light lays it out for you right there. I've been playing this deck a lot. I've gone through just about every matchup for it, and maintaining the memory of how all those work coming to fruition here.
Yeah, and that first game really just came down to that pre-log, pre-earthquake again, and that's what Mo Light does. He knows what you're gonna do before you know what you're gonna do. I've had that happen to me firsthand many a time, but yeah, the prediction there to clean off the guards completely, you could see LCIOP's face in dismay when that happened.
Juicy, talk to me about these two decks, because I even called it that I thought that LCIOP was going to go Lava Loon at some point here.
Yeah.
You were nervous at first, but then Mohamed Light was able to control this beautifully.
Yeah, and even I was like, I think that LCIOP is a matchup. He has the arrows, he has the Barbarian Barrel, the Electro Drag is difficult to deal with, the Balloon is difficult to deal with without a Tesla or a rocket, but Mo Light, he basically out-cycled arrows a lot with the Princess, controlled the match completely, used the Snowball and that Fire Spirit to his advantage. I mean, you called it during it, the Snowballs were perfect the entire time, really just allowing him room to be able to stop those balloons from reaching his tower.
And you talk about that. There's always the potential for an errant Snowball, one that's one tile off. The micro here, phenomenal. The macro here, perfect. And we start things off with Mohamed Light taking one step closer to that World Championship. And keep in mind, folks, this is only 8 players, means it's a much shorter bracket. Mohamed Light is now just 2 wins away from being in our grand final. So that's a scary place for everyone else to be, to see that he is that much closer to being the final boss.
Yeah, I mean, Mohamed Light coming for everyone in the lower bracket is one thing, but having him just sit up there comfortably, like he said, he doesn't have to play again today. And I mean, I don't know, you get into that lower bracket final, right? And it's Mo Light versus whoever, if he's gonna keep going through. And then you have to beat him not once, but twice to try and take that championship.
Well, let's find out who will be facing Mohamed Light in round number 2 of our next pair of players. Let's see it. Josh, take it away.
He's a 4-time world finalist, 3-time monthly finals champion. The beauty of his gameplay is only matched by the beauty of his hair. It's Lucas X Gamer. I'd call an underground pro. For the past 5 years, there's been whispers about his greatness, saying that he'd just show up to some random tournament and run the table. He's a dog. That's why we call him Guriko.
And getting into match number 2, I'm joined on the desk by my longtime friend and partner, Andrew Guy. Andrew, we have a fun one here. We have a 3-time monthly finals winner, one of the few in that rarefied air for Lucas, against a guy who took maybe a bit of an unorthodox route to this top 8.
You know he's going to be mad if you didn't say 2-time without a coach.
Very important.
Yes, and that and Lucas. And yeah, I mean, you brought out some really interesting numbers today with Griko, talking about his kind of run at the end of the season. You know, a lot of people know he got 3rd place in our final monthly finals, but I think the thing that was a little bit more jarring about that was that you said his win rate was sitting right at 50%.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're talking about a 50% win rate, and a lot of the people that we're going to see here were there, I just don't know if that's going to be up to snuff for Griko.
Yeah, 6-6 on that run, but going into that last monthly final, it was with Mohamed Light and Ta, who already had golden tickets. So a 3rd place finish got him here, and Griko was not very high up on the overall leaderboard points that Sub eventually qualified with. So some big questions here surrounding Griko. Does he have the level? He's certainly a top 20 guy in the world, but does he have it to get past these top 3, top 4 guys?
Right, and you can see right here, a lot of people thinking it's Lucas that is going to have the edge, 34% to 66%. But a big conversation with Lucas is about the mental game. But, you know, talking to him after he won his monthly finals, it seems like he's matured quite a bit over the last couple of years. And honestly, I think as long as he can lock down the mental battle that goes on, you heard AC talking about it in the intro, you've heard so many pros talk about it over the almost decade of CRL. That's the hardest thing to do on this stage.
Well, you talk about 2023, where Lucas didn't make World Finals. He was at Worlds in 2020, in 2021, and 2022. But 2023, he was so uncomfortable with the meta and maybe let it creep into his head a bit much that he was in that frustration. Whereas here, this year, it seems like he's kind of embraced it a bit more.
Yeah, and we'll see how he embraces this brand new meta and his next World Finals appearance. Here we go, Game 1, Griko, Lucas. Let's do it.
And this is one of those matchups where you look at the 2 different players, and there are so many factors that kind of tell you where they're going to be. Griko has been so calm all week. He's been joking around, laughing, having a great time. This is the first time I've seen him wear a little bit of nerves on his face.
Yeah, and Lucas on the other side of it, he feels like he's just kind of been dialed all week. You know, on the other side, you know, he's a guy that likes to joke around, he likes to trash talk, but he does seem like he's been very dialed in. You see a little bit of a grimace there as he goes Goblin Sign to the right. Lava gets dropped at the exact same time, opposite lane. That's going to be a little bit more annoying to deal with right now than hopefully for the rest of this game.
Yeah, so now the big question is going to be, does he double down on this right-hand lane, which he appears to be doing with the Bomber, and maybe trying to figure out an alternate way of dealing with the aerial assault on the left-hand side, but they're pretty even in Elixir, but Griko has so much more on the board at the moment.
Yeah, and he did a really good job with that flying machine, making sure he's playing it up to the other side, maybe giving a little bit too much poison value right here to Lucas. I would have loved to see him just kind of pump the brakes. He already had a lot of pressure with the lava plus the flying machine. I don't think he needed to push the issue there with the guards.
Yeah, I mean, that's so much damage, but it feels like it could have been a few hundred more.
Yes, exactly. Or it would maybe been just a hair less, but he'd have more elixir. But he's dealing with his defense very well.
Evo'd Brawler making its way across the bridge as we pass the midway point of regulation time. So far, it's been almost all Guriko with that 17:08 mark on the left-hand side. And maybe a bit of a surprise here. We are in match number 2, and we are 2 for 2 on Lava Hound plays.
Yeah, I know. Fascinating about the Lava Hounds, you expect the Goblin Steins. The other thing that you really should be expecting a lot this weekend is that Goblin Cage. The Evo'd Cage is going to do a great job dealing with the P.E.K.K.A.s, dealing with Goblin Steins, dealing with a lot of the tanks that are most popular in the world.
but we've seen this small shift over the last few weeks with lava being a more and more prevalent.
And the list here of favorite card for Lucas being Skeletons, no surprise for the at one point top 2.6 Hog Cycle player in the world, back when that was still a fully viable deck.
Yeah, and I'm really curious to see what Lucas has as his very last card, like what building that may be. Maybe something, it could be something like a cannon, so that's why he's not playing it yet. You would assume if it was a Tesla or a Inferno, he might have already dealt with that. And Evo Bomber going to do a pretty good job here cleaning up the Doctor behind.
Does he have any way of getting to it here? Log comes down. And, oh, wow.
And Lucas uses the ability, and this champion in the Gobstein is one of the most unforgiving when you use the ability. A lot of the other champions, you know, if the Archer Queen doesn't shoot or if the Skeleton King's ability doesn't go off, the Goblinstein is brutal when it comes to that. And you can see Lucas knows it's over. One mistake is all it takes, ladies and gentlemen.
I mean, I think it all started with that cycled Goblinstein, and then immediately you had the lava go the other way. You want that Goblinstein to go in there, use the ability, clean up all that stuff behind, and he starts off there, and then I think the whole game plan of how he would play the matchup had to shift with that opening exchange.
A little bit of a misfortune, a little bit of mistakes, and that's all it's going to take for Griko to take an easy game number one. You know, we didn't really actually get to see the next level like we did in our first matchup, right? You could see Mo and LCIOP really working through and figuring things out. You heard him talking about it on stage. It felt like we were about to get there in this game, and then just the smallest little mistake. You're going to see it right here. Great job in the replay booth. Boom. Right there, you see Lucas's face, and Griko does exactly what he has to do. Ignore the left, pile on the right, make him spread out his elixir, and ultimately just win the game like that.
Yeah, full-on pedal to the metal, and you can see even in these final moments, Griko still kind of maybe getting a sigh of relief, maybe some relaxation, but knows he still has, and there we go, there's the smile, finally. From the second time world finalist, made it in 2021 when we had 32 players, bounced in that first round, happy to be back here a few years later.
Absolutely. I mean, that was a really, really tough World Finals for so many competitors. It was, you know, it was a best of one on day one, you know, and that's never fun. You always want to have that second chance in the bracket. And Guriko right now not needing that second chance, at least thus far. That is only game one. And Lucas, now this is what we've been talking about for years, what everyone's been talking about. The mental, right? It is canon, makes a whole lot of sense why it was never played, so not an ideal matchup here. You only got the Goblinstein to deal with anything in the air, and this is just a great deck pick by Griko.
Yeah, I mean, this was, again, we're seeing Lava Hound come out. We didn't see it work as well for LCIOP, but we're seeing people kind of go a little bit outside what you might expect. Lava Hound here with the Lightning as well, so a few things here, especially to clear on the back end with that Doctor if need be. In the end, we have game number one going for Griko. Now, you talk about what happens going forward from here. Lucas has often paired Drill with NATO with his minor control decks. Of course, a lot of things that would be susceptible to Tornado are available for Griko going forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so hard to break it down now because the meta is still truly evolving daily. You know, yesterday Juicy was just talking to us about new bait decks that have been showing up. Mohamed Light brought out kind of a version of new bait. You know, that double barrel is absolutely brutal. So when it comes to picking, when you see a matchup like this in game one, in the previous match, game one with LCIOP with the Monk and the Fireball and all that, it really looks like these guys are looking for Archer Queen and Pigs and stuff to cover. And then, because you talk about that Lightning, it deals with the Doctor really well and the Goblinstein in general, but you're also covering against AQ Pigs, which is something that's really popular.
Well, and now we're getting to a point, you and I recently cast a third-party event for Clash Royale, where players were able to go as deep as 8 games we saw with Ryley, and we were on game 6, game 7, and he was still coming out with deep, useful, viable decks and winning games. So at this point with 116 cards and the game growing, dual mode best of 3s, the deck picking's getting harder and harder and harder.
I mean, Ryley was incredibly impressive in that tournament. It wasn't just the decks, but it was also the gameplay, but then being able to marry the two was really one of the reasons that my stock on Ryley went through the roof.
Sure.
I mean, he's incredibly calm, he's ready to go, but it's not about him, it's about these guys.
Let's go ahead and jump into game number 2 for Lucas and Griko. And now here's where the big questions are answered. Does Lucas have those nerves solved? How does he bounce back from that frustrating game number 1 where you know he's kicking himself a little bit.
Got to have memory of a goldfish. That's all it is. He cannot think about... What he needs to know is that had that ability instance not happened, he could have won that game. That's what I'd be telling myself if I was Lucas.
I'd be telling myself, you could have won that game. So some bait from Griko here in game number 2. Arrows so far shown by Lucas.
Nice little pressure here, getting around. A lot of elixir spent, now only 4 elixir to deal with the MK, but he is a pro, so expect I was gonna say either a King Tower activation or just a one and done in a card.
And Goblinstein here to hold the ability. The Mega Knight getting away though
Griko
for some
knows.
significant damage.
Not the end of the world, but just a small mistake there. This will not activate King Tower, I don't believe, but a nice shot, nice attempt.
Does Griko try to utilize the fact, and he's not going to do it. I thought maybe with a slight elixir advantage plus the 3-card cycle, get some early damage here while still in single.
Yeah, and expect the Princess to come down again pretty soon. There she is.
Gotcha.
Minute 20 gone. And Lucas with the lead, but here is the first Evo barrel.
And goes to the wrong side, so the true Goblins get some good damage in. But either way, it's not the wrong side in this situation because Lucas doesn't want one tower to go lower than the other. So smart play by him. Tower's pretty even, but that over the long run, as we just saw in our first matchup, bait in dual lane, not a lot of fun to deal with.
A little pressure on the left-hand side with that Fisherman in the back. Ice Wiz to slow down and take care of business. Princess does not get the second shot.
I'm so happy to see more Dark Hawk. Goblin, been a fan for so long, and very much in the meta right now.
And the Electro Spirit plus Snowball, maybe a bit much there, but plenty of elixir for Griko to just get in the mix.
Nice little bit of pressure here on the left-hand side. Probably going to pull out an MK.
And finally it comes down after a lot of damage.
Wow.
The ability keeps going, and that is a huge opening. Wow.
And this RG now completely unsupported, does get Skellies out to bait out that E-Spirit. Now it's about controlling this Mega Knight and that second Royal Giant. You can see Griko, he's like, whoa, you got a little bit more elixir than I thought. Gonna maybe need to push with a cannon? And doesn't get the push, doesn't have the Doctor, and now he needs to take that left-hand tower. Lucas in firm control.
Can he reset here? Royal Giant goes again. King Tower activation, and this thing just switched on its head in a matter of seconds.
Lucas still behind by just a hair, but definitely feeling the momentum going his direction. 847 for Griko, 756 for Lucas.
And it feels like a totally different game now with that King Tower activation, able to help him a whole lot on that defense. And you see just doubling down on the weak side is Lucas. And now he's maybe going to try to eat a little bit of that right-hand side, and the King Tower getting very involved.
And that ability also not what Griko wanted there. Yes, and that's exactly it, man, is just let that King Tower do the work. Play the defense to just take just enough damage and get it so you can get back on offense. That's the rage.
There you go.
That's the game. And we're going to game number 3 once again.
And you see the pouty face from Griko just going, come on, man. You got me.
You got me. Well played, well thought out there by Lucas. Great way to bounce back. It looked dire there in the beginning once again, and this is exactly what Lucas is kind of talking about when we had that interview is, look, I need to be able to bounce back. I need to be able to go through these moments. He said he's been feeling a lot more mental strength, and I think we're seeing it on display right there.
That was a phenomenal recovery. Let's look at some of the action. This was the one where it kind of opened up and looked like it was going to be a whole lot of trouble as this Goblinstein ability activates and puts a ton of damage on that left-hand tower.
Well, it's fascinating because it's like we all knew what was coming. We knew that the MK was going to come down. Lucas was obviously waiting for the perfect timing, but I don't know, maybe it should have been just a hair earlier to avoid that ability going off or maybe start to distract that Doctor. Not exactly sure, but honestly, at the end of the day, he ends up taking the dub from great plays like that. He gets the prediction with the rage, he gets the prediction with the arrows, or the quick arrows, I should say, and cleans things up to push us to game 3.
And a tight game 3 it's going to be as we take a look at the cycle here. Very quick for Griko, no surprises, playing bait. Lucas, 9 elixir to get all the way around with that 3.5 average cost. Let's look at the decks played in game number 2. And the Mega Knight was absolutely massive in here, but also a secondary big helper was that Ice Wiz for some of those bridge fights.
Yeah, I mean, Ice Wiz is so strong. One of truly the best defensive cards in the game. It really got a great resurgence lately because of that mortar deck that was really popular in the last meta. And he didn't actually just go away to the wayside, which it seemed like it might happen in the beginning when Goblinstein first came out. But that defense was very, very clean through and through. And here we are in game number 3. No idea what we're going to see here. And honestly, both these guys don't look too phased by the fact that they're down 1 game and now in a best-of-1 to go up against probably, I mean, not probably, LCIOP at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, that's the, you go from here to LCIOP, and that's going to be fun for everybody, including us to get one more look at all those players. But you have to look at Griko, and I'm really impressed by, the Lava Hound in game number 1, then keeping Lucas on his toes, going the exact opposite direction with Bait in game number 3.
Yeah.
And now you get to this middle place. You have some Royal Giant available, you have Pigs, you have Hog Rider available, you have Bridge Spam as an option, and we have not seen quite as much of Mama Pekka as maybe expected.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's more of like everyone thinks that they're going to play it, so everyone's thinking that everyone's prepared for it, and then now we're looking and it's like, well, no one's thinking that anyone's going to play. I'm not exactly sure. I mean, we have seen a good amount of Goblin Cage, like I said. We've seen guards a decent amount, so I think it's definitely in the back of everyone's minds, which I think it was Juicy saying it earlier. It is very interesting. He was talking specifically about LCIOP, but it is clear that everyone out there is thinking about Goblinstein and Mama Pekka.
Well, we'll get some answers here in just a couple of moments. But speaking of answers, if you haven't yet, we have 3 days of Clash Royale League World Championship action here from Helsinki, Finland. So if you haven't yet, go to event.supercell.com/Clash Royale. Put your picks in and pick alongside us. So far, we are all 100% with 4 of us picking Mohamed Light. This next one might start to carry some separation.
All right, here we go. Game number 3, all on the line for Guriko and Lucas. Let's see who walks away with it. Yeah, I mean, for years, people have been begging, what do I get if I watch? What do I get if I watch? How do I get a badge? Well, event.supercell.com, get your predictions in, get those predictions right, and you will get that, well, unfortunately for us, the viewer badge of 2024. No finalist, no champion.
Yeah, that champion badge is the ultimate flex. And this is what I thought. I talked about it after game number 1. Lucas has liked running NATO. He pretty much always does it in one of his sets. And with what was open, you have to imagine he is very happy to get that NATO and the early activation.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, especially if he's running E-Giant NATO, because he's going up against Mighty Miner. A lot of times that's what we used to see Golden Knight paired with when we used to see Tornado. But a lot of things have changed since then. Not a lot of people are running E-Giant, and there's that big Mama Pekka.
I think I've seen him run a version of Drill with this before, which would be fascinating.
That's fun.
Drill Marcher, that would get pretty heavy.
The Golden Knight combo, that makes much more sense.
And Firecracker out.
And there's Ram Rider behind. The freeze coming in, wow, and that's gonna go right to tower.
Whoa, whoa, Bridge Spam freeze out of Lucas. And Griko is sitting there looking like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah, what is this? And hoping Lucas doesn't get too fancy for his own good here. Griko running something a lot more on meta, as that NATO does a great pull, and Griko keeps up the pressure.
And is something in cycle. There you go, Golden Knight to pick up. Lucas, though, pretty much down to 0. That Golden Knight not going to be a big problem. Griko will have to cover for the dash, but that's about it.
Should just be an Ice Spirit, I would think, up high, and there it is. And the other thing Lucas has to start thinking about, a little preemptive, a little premature right now, but that King Tower's health already down to 32, 34, only just a couple HP, a couple hundred HP over a healthy Princess Tower.
And here we go. Evo Pekka in the back. And Griko takes a bit of a gulp.
And he's doing exactly what you have to do. A lot of lesser players or people you watch, streamers or whatever that aren't pros, you think, okay, maybe I need to put pressure in the opposite lane. Maybe, no. When you got the Evo Pekka coming up, you know she's coming. You just need to save your elixir and put it all down on the line to defend. There's the Marcher we're talking about. Great Ice Spirit to clean it all up.
And here we go. Uses the ability, gets out of the way of the Mama Pekka. NATO brings it all in. The Golden Knight to clear. This is a huge problem for Griko.
Oh, he misses the pull.
Mama Pekka gets the hit.
He misses the pull.
Mama Pekka gets another hit. Oh my word.
Oh, and the Ice Spirit with the dash. Lucas knows he just hit the nail in the coffin.
And waving the white flag, the Earthquake, Lucas with a roar, and he is going to round 2, where we will get a classic Clash Royale League matchup, Mohamed Light and Lucas, tomorrow here.
What a play. Every piece of that was predicted down to a T by Lucas. He takes the 3 crown, he takes the 3rd game, and he takes the set.
What a show! You see Allen just giving the big let's go! This is what you want from Lucas at World Finals.
I mean, this is what we all want. We all have our dreams of where the bracket can go and who's gonna play who and what could end up in the round 2, round 3, in the finals, and we were getting it already right here. And who knows how they're both feeling about it, going, good friends, good rivals, and Lucas and Momo. That'll be tomorrow, about, a couple matches into the day, but very, very exciting.
Well, let's go find out what Lucas has to say about what happened just now. Jackson Juicy J Wall. Let's hear from Lucas.
What a match. I heard your sigh of relief. Like, what are you feeling right now? Just run me through your emotions.
I'm just so relieved, man. I was nervous. Of course I was nervous, but that game one hit me hard because, I was preparing with my coaches right here, and he told me that he could lava game 1, and I just said, no, he's not going to lava, bro. And when I saw the cage, I just sidled. I was like, bro, he was right. What am I doing? And then, I try to focus, just lock in for game 2 because, you can feel the loss. If you lose and you let that ruin your confidence, you're just going to lose anyway. So, I just feel so relieved.
What made you want to play freeze in the 3rd game, in the match point of that match?
I feel like I actually just stole it from Mo, I'm not going to lie. Mo played on a practice and I just stole it.
All right, that's how you win in 2024. Steal a deck from Mo. Let's throw it back up to the desk.
Hey, look, why not?
Yeah.
Why on earth not? He's been doing a lot right over the last few years.
Yeah, I mean, they're of course good friends. You go in the back here where the players are hanging out, and there's a couch. It's Mohamed Light, Lucas, and Ryley.
Always.
All sitting together,
Always.
playing around, having a good time. So you look in that little den there and figure out what they're doing. Now, of course, he steals that one in this game. He has Mohamed Light coming up tomorrow.
I know, and you know what? If I'm Lucas, I'm going, that is exactly how I wanted my tournament to start off. I make a mistake and lose game number 1, and I bounce back in game 2, and then in game 3, I pull off exactly why I'm a pro. I pull off exactly why everyone knows who I am. I know what you're gonna play, I know when you're gonna play it, and I know how to play through it. And that was exactly what all of Lucas's fans, and I'm sure Lucas himself, were looking forward to doing.
And take a look at this deck. How fun. First of all, how fun is it to play, and how frustrating would it be to lose to this one if you're playing in Path of Legends?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, phone breaker, if you will.
Yes.
I believe that's what these are called. Didn't even really have to get a whole lot out of that Evo E-Dragon. He did so much with that Golden Knight in NATO. Juicy said it for years. A lot of the best players in the world talk about how Tornado is truly one of the best cards ever in Clash Royale. It's very rarely balanced, and if you know how to use it, it is so deadly. The timing of all of that was just wonderful.
And it's not hard to make that pull as we take a look at the bracket with the
Right.
NATO, but it's much harder when you're nervous in front of almost 1,000 people here, tons of people watching worldwide. That's the one where you go, you don't want to make that mistake, that simple mistake in front of all these people.
And the only option was the Ice Spirit or maybe Goblins. So there you go, Mohamed Light and Lucas, our 7th matchup of the tournament. That's going to be a couple matches into the day tomorrow as we have our lower bracket match set. LCIOP versus Guriko to close out the day. That is going to be the final match of the day, and we will be saying goodbye to one of them.
But next up, we have one of our most anticipated matchups of the first round. Juicy J, take us away.
Introducing the only player to beat Mohamed Light not once, but twice in a monthly final this year, as well as our 2nd place finisher in both the community and season points leaderboard, Ta! Next up, we have our community points qualifier. It's his first ever live tournament. The best log bait player in the world, Ryley!
Whoa, we are at the halfway point of our day. I'm Andrew Guy, being joined here by Joshua A.C. Sharon on the desk. Doing a pretty good job so far today.
Yeah, thank you so much. I was so proud of the Guriko. I said it like 6 times in the rehearsals, but I still want to give myself more love. Can I do that?
It hit every single time, but talking about hitting this match as we get halfway through our day is absolutely insane. I think it's everyone's biggest question mark on their predictions. I'm sure it's the same way online. It was for all of us casters. You have the guy that has been the most impressive all year long in Ta, other than, of course, Mohamed Light. That's always the caveat, the asterisk in that sentence. And then on the other side of it, you have Ryley, who's been one of the biggest content creators for a while. He's been someone that people have talked about coming to World Finals for years, but can he actually do it on the live stage? Can he actually do it in the competitive scene? Well, this year he finally showed us that he could. And honestly, the guy that I have seen this week in Ryley feels infinitely more mature and ready for World Finals than even who I saw just 1 year ago.
Yeah, I mean, he feels absolutely ready for this moment. Every question that I had previous to just arriving in Finland, it's no longer there. He looks confident, he looks ready. I'm seeing him smiling. This is great to see. This is what we want.
Yeah, the two of some of the most impressive players all year long. You can see right there, Ta at 61%, Ryley at 39%, and both of them coming to their very first World Finals, which is a huge thing. That was the biggest question. Again, like I said, who is going to feel the lights? And I think because of how Ta has done all year long, on the monthly finals online, there's still a lot of pressure there. Ryley only made it to our monthly finals, I believe, once this whole year, but he was consistently strong in the community and incredibly impressive in that event that Rich and I cast, the 3 of us cast.
Yeah.
Rich and I were talking about it earlier. That was one of the more impressive feats I've seen in a while, just because we didn't really think there was a King of the Hill situation that it was real in Clash Royale anymore.
Absolutely, and here we go. Game number 1, Ta, Ryley, let's go.
Such an exciting matchup here. I mean, so much hangs on this very first game. Will we see misplays? What kind of decks are we going to see? How are their analysts doing? Just so much on the line.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that we haven't really discussed is that Ta is considered a top 3 player in the world, but this is his first time. I mean, how that should affect you, where everybody thinks you're going to run the table, go all the way, but you're kind of new to this, really.
Yeah, I mean, they both are. That's the thing about this, is they're both so new to this. Ta, though, having so much success in our monthly finals. You heard he's gone 1, 2, and 3. He was the second person to win our golden ticket. He was able to 4-0 Mohamed Light, I believe, in our finally monthly finals.
Wow, and that Valkyrie getting the swing off, and that Archer Queen placed perfectly. I think Ryley was trying to catch it with the P.E.K.K.A, keep his fisherman alive, but not the case. Ta, off to a great start.
Interesting deck here. AQ with Miner and Valk, AC.
Yeah, how does Ryley want to stop this? The Rage is going to get a lot of value. I mean, we discuss it a lot, but I love that the Rage got changed to do damage. It feels like such a healthy card now.
Both of these guys clearly thinking about that Mama P.E.K.K.A. Both of them running guards. Bomber also a really great response to P.E.K.K.A.
Last card for Ryley should be the E-Spirit.
Is this just like a minor control, like a facelifted version at the top of the screen?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like the last card should be Poison Log Mortar. But at the same time, that's not going to happen.
Could be Poison Log or like Inferno, too. You know?
Yeah, there we go. There's going to be some variation that we haven't really been seeing all that often.
Yeah, players have been a lot less predictable thus far throughout the day than I think we were expecting. More Lava Hound than we had expected, and more varying versions of P.E.K.K.A decks. We have not seen any Goblin Giant. I know everyone's going to yell at me now that I said it. He's going to start showing up. I'm sorry. There's the Tesla. And it really does just look like a version of Minor Poison Control, but still 2 more cards to see.
Goblin Stein taken out fully. Mama P.E.K.K.A very healthy right now, and that's going to be a great Ice Spirit. Although he stops the Bomber in its tracks.
Wow, the timing there. Pretty much perfect when you talk about what you needed that Valkyrie to accomplish. Cleans everything up, no damage in. This tower right here is the only one that's been touched by a couple of miners. 2856 to 2 very healthy towers, and that Archer Queen is going to be a menace for Ryley if he does not have anything to do. And I said it, I did it. I literally, it wasn't even Goblin, it wasn't even the Goblin Giant before I said it. It was a different card.
Yeah, and this is a very cool deck. I really like it. It's so heavy, though. You get into such awkward cycles. P.E.K.K.A, 7 Elixir, Goblin Giant, 6, a Goblin Stein, 5 Elixir, and you still need to activate those abilities. He's really just trying to wait for double Elixir, wait for triple Elixir to start his pushes, and that's exactly what's happened. He's only given up 200 HP worth of damage, and he's really in the driver's seat, I would assume.
Yeah, I mean, because you know, as this game goes on, it's going to be incredibly overwhelming for Ta. You know, when you're running decks like this, there are very, very little margins for error.
Ta showcasing the zap. And I mean, the last guard, it just has to be poison. And I really like that. You don't want to use the guards, the bomber, whatever it is. You want to just get more offense on the board. It's now double Elixir, get aggressive, and that's exactly what Ryley's doing.
Yeah, I mean, you think about how much time has passed, and it's like Ryley just did that one little attack, and now he's behind by just a hair. So, I mean, that's really what it comes down to. When you're running something like Minor Control, and that's the only way you're getting damage, your defense has to be perfect, and you've got to continue to get those miners on the tower. He's got to utilize that 3-card cycle, but it's so tough when you have to worry about these P.E.K.K.A s.
Yeah, and right here, wow, Goblin Curse.
Wow.
Last card for Ta.
That was not on my 2024 World Finals bingo card, but I gotta tell you, I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder how he's going to stack it. The Ice Spirit plus Zap plus Goblin Curse. He has a lot of answers, a lot of cheap answers. It's just going to be kind of how quickly he can cycle to these Evo Valks to help out with his defense. But that's a lot of chip damage. That tower all the way down to 2285, and Ryley takes a massive, massive lead.
Well, Ta's really looking for like Skellies or Goblins or something like that to be picking up his Miner. The guards make it a lot more frustrating and make that Curse a lot less impactful. You see right there, Curse is in, Zap is in, now the Goblins are down. So much time has already passed. There's no scare factor, there's no shock factor there. It's just control, control, control as Ta here is setting up SimCity.
Yeah, I mean, 3 Teslas, it's not going to matter though. I mean, it's just Ryley needs to place troops at the bridge for the next 25 seconds and he's going to win.
Exactly what he's doing. Ryley doing a great job recognizing what's going on. Didn't give away a lot of damage in single, and now you can see Ta's face. There's no way to defend this, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be a nice Game 1 win for the Canadian as Ryley takes his very first game of his very first World Finals.
Ryley and his coach have to feel so good because there's so many different variations. There's the E-Spirit variation, but no, instead he goes heavy on heavy. And Ta, I mean, that just can't be what I mean, he's expecting bait. That's the answer. That's why you have the Goblin Curse, plus the Zap, plus the Ice Spirit. You're trying to cycle as quickly as possible, and Ryley just doing the exact opposite.
There's just a couple pieces about that. I mean, we're at World Finals. You got to go 1, 2, 3 steps just a little bit deeper. And then if you get got by them going their comfort in game number 1, you can't feel as bad about it. But running something that is so distracted by what your opponent is good at running, I think you end up pigeonholing yourself. This is not a deck that you would want to run regularly. But he's looking so much for Ryley to run this one thing, and it just doesn't. It's not up to snuff.
Yeah, I feel like it makes it too easy for game number 2 and game number 3. One of those can just be log bait at this point. You're giving up so many cheap and quick cycle cards. I just feel like that was really a mistake from Ta and his coach.
Obviously, Log and Arrow's still available here, but now looking at what's already been utilized, I'm going to be very curious to see what Ryley brings out here in game number 2, and a really great showing from him, honestly. I mean, what could have been really played much better by Ryley in that matchup?
Yeah, I mean, he recognized very early on, okay, my opponent, and I don't know how he recognized the Curse, but maybe he did. He just recognized early on, okay, I played the Goblin Giant in the back. Oh, well, he's building Teslas. That means he doesn't really have the right answer?
He doesn't have anything to pressure me other than the Miner.
Yes. And then the P.E.K.K.A s quickly came after that, and then the Goblin Giants as well. I mean, Ryley, it feels like 30 seconds in, he realized, oh, this is actually going to be a pretty easy win.
That deck doesn't really win with anything other than just Miner, chip, and then I guess the shock of the Goblin Curse. And I mean, it's hard to say it because Pedro did such a great job last year with Miner Poison Control. You knew it was coming, you knew he was going to run it, and he just ran it in your face, and he absolutely dominated with it. But I truly believe unless you are one of the best in the world, and I mean like literally top 3, Miner Control is really dangerous at the highest level because you saw what Ryley did there. He recognized early on, chilled out until we got into double, and then just overwhelmed out as we finished that triple.
Yeah, that's definitely just a tough situation for Ta. And I mean, Ryley he just really has to feel so proud of himself in that game number 1. I mean, to recognize your opponent's cards, recognize how your opponent wants to play, I'm proud of him. I really am.
Well, we'll see if he can keep the train going here in game number 2, or will Ta bounce back? And some cheers for Ryley here from the crowd. Obviously one of the biggest content creators in the game.
Was that a newspaper on the stand for Ryley? Is he catching the news?
I mean, he might be catching up on some reading.
Good for him.
And Dark Goblin out. Ryley definitely running bait, as we could see that barrel out early. And AC, Juicy, Rich, we talked about this deck quite a bit yesterday, and it looks like Ryley might be running the version with no spell at all, and it's just all about overwhelm, overwhelm, overwhelm. It's a fascinating deck, it's a frustrating deck, and it's a fun one. Beautiful timing. Yeah, I mean, you even heard the crowd. Yeah. All of us on the same page there. That is not an easy move to pull off, especially on the World Finals stage.
Yeah, I mean, as impressive as the timing is, if your opponent outplays you and places it in the front, it's very clear that Ryley can't really do that every time. Ta is going to recognize that, put that in the front for the next one. So Ryley, while very, very impressive, will need to be careful about it.
And Princess for Princess here is that E-Spirit's looking to do anything. Skelly's ready to go. Ice Spirit on the other side. And I mean, this is why, you know, it's consensus at this point that he's the best log bait player in the world. And he's doing it here on the biggest stage in the world.
There we go. I mean, 1 minute and 15 seconds in, and he's already getting the Evo Goblin Barrel out. I mean, this is exactly how you want to play this deck. Princess at the bridge. This is perfection so far. Dark
Goblin gets 3 shots on the other side. Ta's Princess takes out the Princess of Ryley. 26-04 lowest tower for Ta. 25-34. Ryley technically behind by just a bit.
Wow. See, the way Ryley plays, I can't remember what game it was earlier, but basically when I'm watching a game and I can't figure out why you make a play, that's just my favorite thing in Clash Royale. Right there, he waits for the Princess to attack the Crown Tower, and then he goes in with Goblin King, Dark Goblin at the same time. That is just so cool, and I never see it except when it's from Ryley.
Yeah, just a great job of Ryley recognizing there's no splash damage really in Ta's hand at that moment. Like you said, Princess is gone, Gobstein ends up coming down to clean it up, and that's really the only other response, but that does take time. The overwhelm is in, ladies and gentlemen, or at least it's trying to, as that cannon comes out. Dark Goblin at the bridge, Princess right behind, but Ta doing a really great job of hanging on here.
Yeah, Goblin King to defend the left, and the real Goblins are going to go to the right. Still not going to be that big a problem. Ice Spirit plus the Skellies going to be able to defend that very nicely. And wow, these towers are all very even. This is as even as it gets heading into overtime.
For as much as we are praising Ta and Ryley with that really nice play there, I mean, as much as we're praising Ryley, Ta's doing a really, really great job of hanging on. And 23-64 is his lowest tower. Ryley's is 24-14. Princess protected, cannon to the bridge.
Yeah,
that Goblin's time becomes a little bit more frustrating.
Yeah, again, predicting everything. It really does feel, even if you could watch your opponent play his cards, you're making so many decisions, it would be impossible to keep up. And Ryley's doing that without that knowledge.
Dark Goblin protected, putting up some pressure. Takes out the Dark Goblin of Ta. That Dark Goblin is still alive. Second Dark Goblin is in. Skelly's behind. E-Spirit to stop the bleeding. Wow, this looks so frustrating and difficult to play against. I mean, Ryley's pressure is so good. His defense is so immaculate. I mean, he has spent thousands of hours mastering the interactions of these cards.
Yeah, I mean, not a
Look at that. Oh my goodness. He knows the Evo Skellies are there, and Ta's playing just a hair too predictable.
This is like 8 different predictions in this game. This is quite possibly the greatest game of bait ever played.
And just, and there it is, finally, AC, what you're talking about. Goes to the front, Valkyrie behind, Snowball in to get some damage in. And wow, that's pretty good from Ta. Ability not what he wants, but still, that is good. Princess is on top of the tower. You can't get on top of that Doctor.
Yeah, right there. I mean, just one mistake from Ryley, and Ta screams into the lead. This Princess on the right side is going to be able to hit this tower, and the Princess on the left is getting chipped as well. Ryley able to recover very nicely.
1090, 831, 38 seconds remain. Goblin Gang plus barrel push left-hand side. Ta trying to stay alive, hoping that the push on the right can end the game.
Princess taken out by the cannon, but these Dark Goblins getting stacked, plus the Goblin Umbrella pressure, it's going to be insane. I don't think Ta's going to be able to keep up.
Ta gets the snowball in. Gang is there to clean up. 471, 916. Another barrel comes down. 15 seconds remain. Evo Skellies to clean. Cannon already there. Ryley is going to take his first match of the World Finals, doing it with his favorite deck.
He can feel it. Ta can feel it. Can he get one more prediction? It's not going to happen. Ryley taken game 2 and the set overall. Hey, he might be ready for the big stage.
I mean, putting all the naysayers to rest. A clean game with the best deck in his arsenal. You love to see it, and I cannot wait to hear what he has to say about picking up his first dub on the big stage.
He's got to be 85 different predictions. I need to hear more. Rich, what you got for us?
And here I am with Ryley. Ryley, the first game opened up, a little bit of nerves maybe, not the best moments from you, and then you locked all the way in. Talk to me about the moment where you knew you were in Ryley mode.
When I saw him throw a Goblin Barrel, I knew I was going to win.
Ryley, you've become one of the most popular content creators in English. You have a huge following outside of English, being the top log bait player in the world. Do you have anything to say to all the fans at home who are excited to see you here at World Finals this year?
I love you all. Thank you so much for the support, and I'll try my best.
Ryley, one more time, ladies and gentlemen.
That does not seem like the scared guy that loves to play from his bedroom that so many of the naysayers were talking about. That was confidence, that was clean. That answer, the moment he played Goblin Barrel, I knew I was going to win. And being right, you love to see it.
Wow. I cannot wait to just go home and just click rewatch, and just try and figure out what he saw, because I didn't see that.
I mean, Ta was playing so well throughout that game. I mean, he was giving Ryley, if he'll allow me to say it, a run for his money. But Ryley doing such a great job. No spell there. No way to control the other side of the board. That is what is so impressive. And then Ta finally does exactly what you talked about to start things off. He goes Goblin Barrel to the front. That's when Ryley took a ton of damage. If it weren't for that one play, this would have been an absolute beating.
Yeah, I mean, Ryley, it felt like prediction after prediction, and then Ta, on the other hand, I mean, there's really not more that I mean, the only reason you can get predicted over and over again is because you're making that picture-perfect play, and that's what Ta did for the 5 minutes that he was there. It just happened to be against him.
The predictive ice spirits, as we take a look here at the bracket, the predictive ice spirits on top of those Evo Skellies is one of my favorites. There's so many things going on in bait matches. It's impossible to keep up with, well, for most of us. There we go. One more match of our upper bracket before we start saying goodbye to one of our 8 competitors. We have the Battle of Brazil, Pedro and Sub, and then LCIOP and Griko to close out our day. One of them will survive, the other one goes home, and now Ta sitting there gonna have to think about this all night. Who his opponent's gonna be, what he did wrong, what he needs to adjust. That's gonna be a long 24 hours for him.
Yeah, I really don't know if I wanna be one of those players who's getting potentially knocked out in day 1, or if I want that 2-hour sleepless night knowing that I'm stepping up to the stage and I could just get knocked out the next day. It is tough. Well, that's probably why you don't try and go to the lower bracket.
That's why you don't like to lose. And one of these guys is going to move on. One of them will go down to face off against Todd tomorrow. The Battle of Brazil. Take it away, Rich.
Few players have put 3 accounts in the top 10 on ladder at the same time. Only 2 have followed that up with a 2nd place at World Finals. This guy's looking to be #1 in 2024. Please welcome last year's runner-up, Pedro. In Clash Royale, consistency is king, and few did 2024 like our next competitor with 3 appearances in our Clash Royale League monthly finals. He's here to prove he belongs. Let's welcome Sub.
the battle of Brazilians, the battle of teammates, the battle of buddies. That's gonna be so difficult.
I know. I was talking to them earlier today, actually, and they're very sad that they have to play against each other in that first match, and they haven't been practicing with each other for the last about month because they know this is an upcoming match that is extremely important for both of them.
Yeah, I mean, they can't feel too bad. Neither of them kind of took the forfeit, took the L. So I think, you know, as much as they don't want to do it, they're probably ready. There is something great about getting to go against a countryman, knowing that at least somebody from your place is going to be making it to the next round.
Yeah, too bad it's not like ladder where they can just click a good game and tie trade and both head on to the next match. But yeah, man, this is Clash Royale League. You know, you're going to play against who you're going to play against. Let's look at the community predictions here. We got 71% for Pedro and 29% for Sub. What are your thoughts on that spread?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. We take a look at Pedro, and he was able to finish second place at the World Finals last year. So that's obviously, that's just going to propel you to the top. You're automatically going to catch at least 50% of the votes. But at the same time, I'm taking a look at Sub stats where he got 8th in the monthly finals in June, and that's really solid. Top 8 is very good. But then in July, he finished 6th, and then August, he finished 4th. He keeps moving up in the world, and you have to assume he's ready to get an even higher placement at Worlds.
Let's see if he is ready. We're hopping straight into game number 1.
While Sub did finish 8th at the monthly finals in June, Pedro actually took his opportunity and was able to qualify, receiving his golden ticket in the June monthly finals.
Yes, and there is a very difference in the meta currently than last year where he finished 2nd. There's a lot less minor poison. We saw one minor not really poison today so far, and it didn't do too well. So this could really be a big difference maker for Pedro.
Yeah, Pedro cycling the Ice Spirit, cycling the Monk, you have to assume that it's probably going to be RG. But the Ice Wizard as well, even a few opportunities, still probably leaning towards that RG though.
Yeah, you see the Monk, you see the Ice Wizard, very similar deck to what LCIOP actually played versus Mohamed Light in round 1. On the other hand, Sub here with I don't know, is this an Electro Giant deck? Or this deck is very interesting. Maybe Drill, potentially, but it looks like E-Giant to me.
Yeah, and Pedro with a hot start to the game, the Fireball catching the Knight plus the Cannon, and able to get a good chunk of damage on top of Sub's left tower. Ice Wizard, as great as it is, it does struggle in DPS situations. RG, it looked like the icicles were more like feathers.
Yeah, now Evo Roll Giant is going to be in cycle. And we do see the poison, so maybe last card is like a Miner or a Goblin Drill for Wing Edition. Or maybe he's just relying on just simply Goblin Stein with the Evo Bomber and just control.
Yeah, it really is interesting. I really think you could put out a poll and no card is going to receive more than 15% of the votes. I'm dumbfounded on what this last card can be.
Okay, we do see the Monk ability dropping here. Is not deflecting the cannon, which is a huge point to watch out for here. And a Tornado from Sub preventing the King Tower activation, but was that the right play? Maybe he should activate or pull the Roll Giant backwards to stop all of this damage.
Yeah, you have to, I mean, Pedro is just playing this absolutely perfectly, and there we go. It's going to be the Graveyard, but Pedro should be able to clean this up pretty nicely. The ability for the Doctor already activated. And some of these skeletons are, I mean, he did get a fair bit of damage. Tower's pretty close. Only 363 HP separating the two players.
So we have some classic kind of splash art here with the Goblin Sign of Sev Baby Dragon with the Cannon for solid defense. But this Monk is getting so much value versus the Bomber, the Cannon, the Goblin Sign, even the Ice Wiz deflections.
Yeah, and a value Fireball. Goblin Stein not able to cross the bridge, and that's a beautiful Fisherman taking out the Ice Wizard instead of the Goblin Stein, and just Pedro pushing another RG on the board.
The later this gets in the game, the more chance Sub has to come back and get the dub here with that Graveyard. In order to win for Sub, he needs to get an Evo Knight or a Goblin Stein with the Graveyard and a pre-poison onto guards if he's gonna break through and make this happen.
And what do you do if you're Pedro? Is it just continuing to cycle the RGs at the bridge? How do you stay away from these big pushes from Sub?
I think you have to try to block at the bridge like he's doing right now with that Monk. You need to always save guards for the Graveyard, and you need to try to chip away with the fireballs, but all of that, and you can see what I'm talking about. Later in this game, those Graveyards and those poisons are going to slowly stack through.
I'm pretty sure we just saw our first kind of major mistake of the tournament. Sub placing the Ice Wizard in the back of the map on the right side and shaking his head quickly. This is real trouble for him, and that's going to be at least one shot, maybe a second. Not going to be the case.
No Tornado and Cycle there. He had to take that hit. He had no choice. And once again, I still think he can come back. There is triple elixir. Anything is possible. He needs to get Graveyards on the tower, but it's going to be close.
Right now, both players just trying to win these bridge battles. Fireball going to get a lot of value. And right there, the Goblinstein might make it to the tower. It's definitely not going to chip away. And Pedro still just trying to defend, and get those RGs on the board.
And Sub is so consistent with the Tornadoes pulling the Monk back as the ability is happening to prevent the ability. But I mean, can you stop this RG? You have the Evo Bomber, you have the Tornado, but the Fireball is dropping on both. This Evo Roll Giant is still healthy. One shot. Do we see a second? There it is! Pedro taking game number 1.
Sub doing all he can, the constant defensive nados, the Ice Wiz, trying to separate troops where you're not placing the Ice Wiz right on top of the Knight. I mean, he's separating his troops so well that it was almost impossible for Pedro to get a Fireball that was hitting an Ice Wizard plus a Knight. It was perfection almost, but Pedro just able to find those 1 or 2 minor mistakes and gets that victory.
Yeah, I think especially in that matchup, you'd rather have the Goblin Cage instead of that cannon, because once again, the Monk just being able to tank and deflect that cannon and how low HP it is, that Fireball dropping on, taking it out, you'd much rather have that cage and at least have that Brawler to spawn afterwards.
Yeah, it really felt like that cannon at the end was just kind of weird. It felt like the Fisherman's, it was too easy for them to lock onto the cannon. And I think there was another card as well, maybe like an Ice Wizard or something. Cannon needs to be placed low. I don't care if you give me a reason why and it's correct. It doesn't matter. I'm always placing my cannons low.
I think you're right. I mean, you have to play up maybe one tile than you normally would to prevent the Fireball from hitting tower.
Yep.
But other than that, you're absolutely right. That cannon was placed too high. The Fisherman was able to lock on and help take it out. And as we saw, the Royal Giant locking directly on the tower for massive damage. And when you're playing Splash Yard, it's all about not taking damage. And Sub just wasn't able to make that happen.
Yeah, and so you were talking to someone, I'm not actually exactly sure who it was, but they were saying that Pedro took these last 2 weeks mega seriously, 24-hour-a-day boot camp type workouts. You know, talk to me about what Pedro has been able to accomplish in these last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I heard a little birdie tell me that after he qualified earlier this year, that he was taking a little bit of a vacation from the monthly finals. You know, he had his qualification. But
that's what Mo should do. It's very, you know.
Mo wants that win
enough.
every single month. But yeah, Pedro on the other hand, you know, he's taking a chill, he's taking a break. But these last 2 weeks have been absolutely grinding, trying to get back into form. And I think we could see even in Pedro's reaction at the end that he was relieved to feel that he might be back.
Yeah, I mean, Pedro, when he's back, is the second best player in the world to me. I don't think, you know, I'm saying this after Tyler lost, so maybe I'll change my mind. I'm a very, you know, I change my mind quickly. I don't nothing's set in stone for me, but Pedro for me is the second best player in the world when he's locked in.
Sure. And when it comes to Sub, on the other hand, he is very consistent. He was season leaderboard qualifier. I mean, it's all consistency. He's always making it to that monthly final. But is consistency enough? Is just being able to get a few wins every month, is that enough to beat the best of the best here at the World Finals?
And here we go, heading into game number 2. Sub Pedro up 1-0.
Both players relaxing, sitting at 10 elixir, waiting for their opponent to make the first play. It's always better to react instead of attack in Clash Royale, so you can use your Princess Towers in support of your cards and then counter push later.
You know, I don't know if we talked a lot about these mottos, but I really do enjoy seeing them. Never take it easy, fight on. I don't think fight on was one of them. I'm sure these players are smarter than I am when it comes to mottos. But, you know, I think it's very important. What would your motto be?
My motto is, it is never too late to activate King Tower. That is my motto.
Ooh, it's not bad.
I love my King
On
Tower
the spot,
activation.
too. Stop it.
Yeah, that's my motto.
Pedro cycling the arrows and the rage. We've seen that plenty of times. We could be seeing the P.E.K.K.A. Goblin Giant deck that's been very popular. And now with the addition of Goblinstein, still thinking it's probably going to be P.E.K.K.A.
Little Prince. It's interesting. We've seen Little Prince twice now in World Finals. It seems like we're almost back to where champions were very important. After Evolutions got added to the game, champions really kind of stopped being too important, but the 3-card cycle seems pretty necessary at this World Finals.
And right here, Bomber at the bridge on the left side. Okay, I like the idea behind that. Can the P.E.K.K.A. take out the Fisherman?
Wow.
Not going to be the case. And that Fisherman, goodness me oh my, getting as much value as it can, but still getting the charge. This Ram Rider, it feels like every single time it's placed on the map, it's getting 16 charges onto 13 buildings.
But Sub knows that his defense was decent enough to be up Elixir, so he attacks directly with the Roll Giant right before Double Elixir come through. And look at this Roll Giant, getting many shots and putting Sub actually in the damage lead.
Yeah, right there. I mean, this is the second time we've seen one of these kind of major mistakes from one of these players. This time, Pedro putting the Rage outside of the Bomber's range, and the Bomber not getting raged up allows the RG to go to town on that tower.
He goes for the Fisherman. It's distracted on the Goblinstein on the right side. The E-Spirit will prevent the Ram Rider from reaching tower, though, and we might have another situation of a good counter push. Here comes the Roll Giant right away.
Yeah, I really think he messed up on that push. Can that evil Bomber save him? It looks like it could be the case. He needs that P.E.K.K.A. to get that final shot, and he does. Got saved right there. Otherwise, that would have been towered down for sure. And it's crazy. You just put an evil P.E.K.K.A. on the map, and all of a sudden, you're kind of just back into a game.
Very close. I honestly thought Sub was in a lot of trouble there, but the Mega Knight drops down, cleans up the right. Left side, very surgical with the E-Spear to stop charge, and the Barbarian Barrel to do decent damage. I like what Sub's doing. He's allowing his opponent to split up damage, but he's all locked in on the right-hand side.
I gotta say, I've never really seen that interaction before. The Fireball catching the Ghost in mid-air, just sniping it out of the air. Very impressive, and I don't think you can put a P.E.K.K.A. in the back. I think that's game over. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay, it only gets 2 shots, but I mean, 1 shot, that's too much. You can't put the P.E.K.K.A. in the back when it's 1 minute and 30 seconds left in the game.
Sub does have Fireball back in cycle. It does not do enough, though. He needs 2 Fireballs to finish out the game. This is all but over. Here is the Evo P.E.K.K.A. in cycle. Will Pedro be able to make something happen? It does look like the Fisherman does come back around. I thought he was going to walk away.
Right there, Mega Knight jumping onto the Doctor, the P.E.K.K.A. doing what it can, but that E-Spirit, that 1 Elixir E-Spirit might be enough. The E-Wish should not be enough to stop the Ram Rider going to town on top of the tower, getting it down to 395. Fireball on defense. Sub takes it. Evo RG, it took its time, but it was able to take the tower.
Wow. I'm speechless. That game was insane at the end. A race against time. Will the Roll Giant get it? Will the Ram Rider make it happen? But Sub, I mean, once again, he's the king of consistency. He knows what he's doing. He's playing his best gameplay, and he makes it happen just barely against last year's runner-up. And now we're in a situation, it's 1-1 in the best of 3. The Battle of Brazil. I mean, I know that you probably picked Pedro. I think everyone picked Pedro except Rich, if I remember correctly. I mean, after seeing Sub's gameplay here, is your thoughts changed at all?
I mean, when I was making my decision, it was 51-49. All these players are just so talented, so close to each other, that it really is it's impossible to feel good about a pick. I'm kind of just guessing. Let's take a look at the replays right here, and I think Pedro messed up with his Ram Riders. I really think that even though he was getting some chip damage on top of the tower, it felt like you needed that 5 Elixir to stave off the RGs that are trying to make it to the Crown Tower. What are your thoughts on using defensive Ram Riders instead of the offensive ones?
I think for most things it can be helpful. Like right here, the Ram Rider really slowing down the RG, and it's almost what got him the win. but the Roll Giant is just so tanky, especially with that Mega Knight in front, just tanking everything, allowing the RG to slowly get there and connect. And that's what Sub did the whole game. Like I said, just focusing on that right-hand side, slowly but surely getting those Roll Giants to the tower.
You know, one thing I really liked about that replay at the very end is that he went Fireball on defense. I felt like it was very clear that it wasn't going to make it to the tower, so finish off the tower. So why would you do that? Well, the Fireballs, it's not going to be enough damage on offense. If the RG gets the shot, you are going to win anyways. And if the RG doesn't get the shot, you're going to lose anyways. So you might as well Fireball on defense. I think that was very good awareness in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, also just loved Sub's defense the entire game.
Yep.
The use of the Electro Spirit to stop the Rain Rider charges the entire time was picture perfect. And once again, just allowing his opponent to split up his damage. And then the counter pushes. I mean, this is why I love casting with you, Josh. We both just sit down. You know, I mean, there's not much play-by-play plus color action. We're both retired pros just nerding out the desk together. It's a great time.
It's so cool. Every single individual card, I could do a 5-minute speech, and I would feel confident. I would be able to look into the camera, 5-minute speech. All right, let me, fourth card, all right, E-Spirit. How did he use the E-Spirit? Fisherman, how did he use the Fisherman? And actually, I do want to talk about that Fisherman. There was one Fisherman that I thought he misplayed, and I almost said something, but I was like, all right, let me wait this out. Let me see what's going on. It did that weird little walk, came right back, and I was like, all right, yeah, that makes sense.
I know exactly what you're talking about. And let's just hop straight into game number 3. You hear the crowd screaming for Pedro here. I love it. I love it. I love an energetic crowd. Really adds to everything here. I mean, I just can't. I'm just trying to put myself in these players' shoes. What are they thinking right now? They're going against one of their good friends. It's 1-1 of the best of 3. And there's just so much on the line here.
Yeah, as soon as I put myself into a player's shoes, my hands start to shake violently. Oh my goodness, I'm not ready for this moment. I gotta say, I'm very impressed with the stoicism from all these players. It feels like, you know, they're getting nervous, they're making, you know, 1 or 2 mistakes, but it's not that bad, which makes sense. You know, we're 7 years in, 8 years in. It feels like they should be ready for the moment, but it feels like they never are until this one.
Yeah, I mean, Clash Royale is a very mental game. It's all about, you know, I mean, your emotions can play a big factor. I mean, you want to remain emotionless. You want to play the best of your ability every single game, no matter what. Let me go back to my interview with Lucas. After that first loss versus Lava Hound, where he really couldn't do much, he said, I just needed to pretend it didn't happen, really. And it's absolutely correct. You cannot think about any losses. You just have to think about winning and playing your best this game.
Oh boy, Pedro whipping out the Miner plus the Little Prince. And, you know, it does get deleted from the map, the P.E.K.K.A. Evo P.E.K.K.A. in the next cycle, but the P.E.K.K.A. is going to make it hard for Pedro to get any chip damage whatsoever. Always going to be able to take out the Mega Knights, the Little Princes, the Miners. But if there's anybody who can figure out this kind of matchup, it's going to be Pedro.
Oh! Huge mistake. Lumberjack played 1 tile too far down, trying to get the King activated, but it doesn't pull. The Mega Knight connection here, as you said, Pedro, it's very difficult for him to get damage in this matchup, but now he has it. Now he just needs good defense.
And right there, Ram Rider, a great rage, and that's going to take out all the Skellies, get 1 charge onto the tower, 25-20. And man, that was a 3-second window where everything Pedro did, Sub did something better. The Ram Rider got that charge before Pedro could get the Tesla down. He got the rage as soon as the Skellies were plopped down on the ground. Pedro wasn't quick enough with a Miner. Sub fighting back.
Evo P.E.K.K.A. in the back, slow rolling a big push here. We still don't know Sub's last card, but it's most likely going to be an extra spell to be able to break through on offense versus you name it here on defense. Pedro, on the other hand, has the Evo Mega Knight, but we all know who's going to win in an interaction between Mega Knight and P.E.K.K.A.
And right there, Pedro was trying to set it up so that the P.E.K.K.A. wouldn't get the heal on itself. Instead, the Mega Knight just a little bit too low, and the P.E.K.K.A. ends up taking out what I believe was a Miner, and that Ram Rider does get a shot. No activation of the ability. I'm pretty sure he just wasn't back to it. there's so much going on in the map that I can't really pay attention at this point.
And this is what you were talking about earlier. Sub just keeps placing a peck in the back. It's blocking that entire lane, preventing a minor poison from coming through and getting damage. And instead, in fact, Pedro just continually use Miner on defense. He is up damage, but for how long?
Yeah, and I mean, we just have to wait and see what Sub's last card is, because if it's a Lightning, this game could just be over from that, because Pedro's always going to think, all right, you know, my Tesla's going to be enough. I can put the Mega Knight in the back, and this offensive push from Sub is going to be nothing. But a Lightning will just change the game entirely.
And you see the Evo Ice Spirit doing such a good job on defense. Wow. You know, a year ago, or maybe even 6 months ago, Ice Spirit was the worst Evo in the game. But now you can see why it's so used on defense versus these P.E.K.K.A.s and these Mega Knight Evos.
Defensive poison coming in from Pedro. The way pros, wow, that Ram Rider onto the tower. The Mega Knight jumping is going to do a little bit, but it's going to get a charge plus a regular hit. And that right tower for Pedro down to 1664. But now here it is. It's 1 minute left. This is Pedro at his peak. Miner, poison, can he defend?
He does defend decently, but that Rammer connection is now put it in Pedro's court to get damage. He can't just defend, he needs the damage. He needs a minor poison connection on tower, and he has yet to get it. Will it be possible in this last 30 seconds?
Lumberjack cycle to the right from Sub. Pedro probably going to go the opposite lane. I mean, especially with that P.E.K.K.A. But here's the thing. You only have Bar Barrel and Poison. Those Goblins on defense, it's going to be too much. He's going to elect to go same lane right here.
Minor poison is inbound. The Goblins prevent all minor hits. The poison gets some damage, but there's only 13 seconds left on the clock. Both players spell cycling. Sub is in the lead, and he's just trying to predict the next minor, and he is successful.
Yeah, he's not going to be able to get the damage. Sub is going to take game number 3. He has to feel so good about this. Sub cycling perfectly. The P.E.K.K.A. in the back, I could just defend with Goblins. All right, the Ram Rider at the bridge. Let me get a charge every single time. Sub has to feel good about this set.
And Sub with a bit of an upset here, winning Battle of Brazil, putting Pedro down to the lower bracket. I mean, there's got to be a huge mix of emotions, right? I mean, he's probably overwhelmingly positive, but you have to realize that he has just beat one of his great friends and practice partners.
Yeah, we're going to find out his emotions right now. Andrew on the floor.
What a way to start your tournament. You're going up against your friend, you're going up against your countryman, you're going up against the former world number 2. How does it feel to start your world finals like that?
Que forma de começar o campeonato enfrentando o segundo melhor do mundo, seu amigo, seu compatriota. Como é que você sente começando o torneio dessa maneira?
Não há palavras para descrever o que eu estou sentindo agora. É uma única emoção, meu primeiro mundial, e já começar com uma vitória é um grande passo.
There are no words to describe what I'm feeling right now. My first world finals, and to start winning is a big step.
Yeah, and you started off this set by losing. You made a pretty big mistake with the Ice Wizard on the wrong side of the board. How did you bounce back and end up winning that entire match?
Você começou no primeiro jogo fazendo um grande erro com o Mago de Gelo. Como é que você conseguiu reverter para ganhar a partida inteira?
Acho que erro todo mundo comete, mas é que você faz depois do erro que geralmente dá a vitória. Então acho que eu tive uma boa mentalidade de não perder o controle, por mais que eu tenha perdido a primeira partida, eu consegui ganhar as 2 últimas.
I believe that we all make mistakes. It's how you recover from that matters. And I was able to focus mentally and have a victory on the other one. So.
An incredible recovery for Sub, who we'll see much more of tomorrow. Back to you boys on the desk.
I gotta say, the mental fortitude of some of these players. How do you look at yourself and say, hey, you know, I just made a mistake. That's okay. Everybody does that. That's not a problem. Hey, when I do that, it's just phone, floor, wall. It's not, hey, that's okay. That's a good, healthy mindset.
Yeah, and I can see why Rich chose Sub to win this match as well. I mean, he's really gained a lot of my respect here. Yes, he did make this mistake, But it's the same thing as losing a first game and having to move on. He made that mistake, he shook his head, and look, you can see in his expression, he's locked back in, and immediately after, look at this prediction rage, dropping it on the skeletons. And once again, he has my respect for the rest of the time. I don't know how many times I will pick against him because he's just locked in. He knows what he needs to do, and you can see right here, once again, the Rain Rider connecting every single time.
Yeah, I gotta say, I mean, Sub is gonna feel like a 7.5 out of 10 or something. He knows there's a few things that he needs to work on. You know, the Ice Wizard mishap cannot happen again. He's gonna have to make sure that the Mega Knight jumps correctly. But to be able to learn those things about yourself, learn that yourself is going to be able to recover midway through a set.
Yeah.
He has to feel fantastic that he can do that.
Yeah, I mean, once again, he just did so well. Let's take a look at the decks here in this match number 3. I mean, it's P.E.K.K.A versus Mega Knight. That immediately gave him a bit of an advantage. Pedro, on the other hand, it just never seemed like he could break through with the Minor Poison either. Honestly, I didn't see the gameplay with Minor Poison that I usually see from Pedro. I feel like I see a little bit more solid defense, and I feel like I see a little bit more Minor Poisons on the map. It seemed like he never, until like the very last 30 seconds, paired the Minor Poison together.
Yeah, and I really would have liked to see at the very end of the game him cycle the Little Prince in the back. Because had he done that, then he would have been able to go Minor, Poison, Fire Spirit. Do you need one more card, or is it Minor again? I never learned my 3-card side. Either way, he would have been able to get the Minors on top of the tower, the Poisons on top of the tower. Wasn't the case for him, but we're going to be able to see him again. Let's check out the bracket to see what we have left in this day.
Yes, next up, we have our first and only elimination match of day number 1. It's LCIOP versus Guriko. And now we also know the second match for tomorrow, the next lower round match. It's Ta versus Pedro. I know we didn't officially do our predictions on that match yet, but if I can put you on the spot here, Josh, what are your thoughts on who's going to win both of those lower bracket matches?
Ooh, both of those. Okay, so I think I have to lean towards LCIOP. I mean, he's the former world champion, 6-time world final qualificator. That can't be a word. I'll look it up. And yeah, I mean, I have to feel so confident about LCIOP, and probably Pedro. I like him.
Andrew, talk to us about this next upcoming match.
As quickly as things start, they can come to an end. We've come to the 5th and final match of the day. 1 man in, 1 man out. LCIOP versus Guriko! And here we are for our final match of the day. Juicy, it's been a wild one, and we end off with somebody going home on day number 1.
Yeah, I mean, the nerves have to be out of this world for maybe Griko, but LCIOP, just such a veteran. I'm sure he's been in this situation many times.
Oh, he has faced elimination over and over again, and quite often he has overcome that moment. Griko hasn't had much in the way of any live stage experience. I believe this is his first time playing in front of a crowd, certainly one like this, with this giant production, all the team. He's been through media day, through walking around, going through so many things. This week doesn't start here. These guys have been here for days, and the pressure, this is that moment where you go, was all of that for nothing? Was all of that just to be out on day 1?
Yeah, I mean, everyone is walking away with at least $15,000, but every win you start grabbing more cash, and you know, it's a lot for playing a mobile game.
Well, I guarantee you that each and every one of these players would happily give up that $15,000 to make it to round number 2. Yeah. Nobody wants the money more than they want that life.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to even Mohamed Light, or not Mohamed Light, but some of the coaches, and it just seems like he doesn't care about the money. If he wins this tournament, he's gonna put himself over $1 million in prize winnings, but he only cares about that dub.
Well, when you've won almost $1 million, maybe the money is a little bit less impactful. The impact here of your votes, 56% for LCIOP, only 44 for Griko. Fairly close today, Jackson.
Yes, let's hop straight into game number 1 of our first elimination match.
Who can show up when it matters? Griko, odds against him, not by much. LCIOP, lots to prove here tonight.
We have a Zap from LCIOP and Skelly's and Ice Spirit from Guriko. We know both the Evos from Griko. It's gonna be some sort of cycle deck, maybe Minor Poison, maybe Goblin Drill, maybe even, most likely, Pig's Earthquake.
And they'll meet here at the bridge, Ram Rider. So LCIOP going to the thing he's known for in game number 1, bridge spam.
And the Zap dropping on to the Ken. Iceberg does stop the Ram Rider charge, 1 regular hit. I'm not gonna lie, I don't wanna be this guy. I'm sitting up on the caster's booth, it's a lot easier, but I did see quite a few mistakes from Griko here. I definitely think the nerves that we were talking about are starting to affect him. He missed the roll delivery. He played the Archer Queen ability too early versus the Roll Ghost, and it's gonna cost him 1 little bit of damage. He really needs to lock in and not make any more mistakes if he's gonna beat this veteran.
Cannon Cart gets stopped just after the bridge. First minute and 20 gone. And that Earthquake will be the first damage on the board for Griko.
I love LCIOP's motto here, put me back on the throne. That is confidence, and yeah, once again, is just showing his experience here. The question is, does he have the facilities to defend against these Royal Hogs?
Well, the Evo Zap plus the guards clears that up fairly nicely. And as we go into double elixir time, this heavy deck of LCIOP with the P.E.K.K.A.s in the back will begin to create more and more pressure.
Yeah, I've actually played a similar matchup as this, and if the P.E.K.K.A. player plays really well and manages cycle correctly versus the Royal Hogs, he's always gonna have that Ghost or guards in cycle for defense. You just have to watch out for running into a situation like in the very first match of today, where a pre-log plus pre-earthquake comes in to clear out those guards at the right time.
Cannon Cart to the right, Evo P.E.K.K.A. to the left, Pigs and Queen come in from Griko in that right-hand lane. Ice Wiz plus to control here, and the guards high, and now it's LCIOP's turn to reply in the left-hand side.
Really nice Evo Ice Spirit. It's not only really good versus the Mega Knight and P.E.K.K.A. as we talked about, but that Ram Rider after the buff, it's always constantly charging up, but the Ice Spirit really puts it kind of just even in the grave and preventing any sort of charge up at all.
As we head into sudden death overtime, so far so good for the SK Kalalas player, Griko, who has a significant lead to maintain over these next 2 minutes.
Yeah, the other thing about this matchup is it's all about the Evo P.E.K.K.A. If you're going to win from the P.E.K.K.A. side of things, you need an Evo P.E.K.K.A. popping off and continually healing itself over and over. But maybe the Cannon Cart can be the X Factor instead.
Oh, wow. Cannon Cart, very healthy. Lots of damage. Don't worry. Ice Wiz on the left-hand side getting its turn into.
And Griko, no emotion. He's got to be feeling it. Maybe he's just doing really well, a really good job of hiding it. But, you know, this is a tough match. This is a difficult matchup, and he really needs to do something to get these pigs to the tower.
A little bit of damage there, mostly courtesy of the Earthquake. Archer Queen at the bridge, getting some protection. And now just setting up Cannon. Archer Queen ability will help a lot, and look at that. Brilliant defense here. Will it be enough?
He's got the Ice Spirit, he's got the log to stop that Ram Rider charge. It's almost as if he's gonna get more damage, he needs another Cannon Cart or maybe even a P.E.K.K.A. connection. And all of a sudden, Griko is starting to inch towards that damage lead as he goes through this log just by good defense and Earthquake cycle.
And you see him set up Archer Queen in the back. We are in triple elixir. This is where you do exactly what you're seeing. Archer Queen in the back, 3-card cycle, Earthquake, Log, Skellies, or the Ice Spirit, back once more.
Roll, delivery on the left, double cannon, tell defend, but look at the arrow zap,
Oh,
Queen, everything
boy.
off the board. He has to roll delivery, he gets the cannon down in time to stop the Rainrider, just barely somehow, and now he's going for the push.
Pigs in, guards plus Royal Ghost against, arrows to clear, and now LCIOP has to connect in the final seconds, or that's going to be game one. Oh my word, the cannon cart connects! Griko absolutely throwing here. Can he cycle enough to get this one back? Arrows the opposite direction, 654, 758, LCIOP takes game number one.
And this is the difference in experience. Cannon cart just slightly above 1 HP, not realizing that the tower would not take it out with its first attack. Cannon cart locks on it, and the game is all but over.
And you just have that thing absolutely locked down in that moment. And you have to wonder now, we've seen recoveries today, but does Griko have it in him to come back from that now that he knows his back is against the wall?
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. Let's hop into the replay here. We saw Griko attacking with the pigs, getting damage consistently with the Earthquake, and we saw his defense be very strong, especially with the Evo Ice Spirit. But when it came down to later in the match, even then, with this cannon, getting that down last second was so surprising. I thought he was gonna win. I thought he had it locked down. But this cannon card on the left-hand side, watch as it somehow takes out the cannon before the cannon attacks it. That might have been the interaction, actually. That is a very interesting interaction. I think it's changed slightly by the cannon card. It got like a 1% attack speed buff. So it's slightly better than the cannon in that situation. I don't think he was ready for that.
And that will be a big change, as we've seen. And now Griko has to regroup, used one of the stronger defensive decks here. 3 spells gone in the Royal Delivery, the Earthquake, and the Log on LCIOP's side, Arrows and Evo Zap out. Now, LCIOP has used one of his best archetypes. He is known as a bridge spam player. Still does have some bridge spam alternatives available here if he wants to double down on that idea. Bandit didn't get used here. Battle Ram didn't get used here. Mega Knight didn't get used here. And he has played some configurations using those 3 in the past. But do you think he just goes ahead and says, I am LCIOP, one of the all-time great bridge spammers, and does it again? Or does he pivot?
I'm not sure, but I want to see him do it again. I want to see him, like versus Mohamed Light, play that bridge spam deck with the Goblin Drill variant and just play to a T and just win. And that's the best Clash Royale that I love to watch. I love these players play their best deck no matter what they think their opponent's gonna play.
Well, let's go ahead, jump into game number 2. Griko needs to battle back. And you hear the Chinese fans cheering out. Definitely saw some in the crowd wearing some old school LCIOP supporting gear. And he did go 14-4 in all of his qualifiers to win the CRCC, including the South Regional Championship and the overall CRCC Finals. Very different look than Griko's 6-6 to get his golden ticket.
Okay, we do see a Hog Earthquake from LCIOP. This is a deck that he's very well versed with. On the other hand, we see a Roll Giant Lightning from Griko. Looking at this matchup overall, I want to say that LCIOP has a slight advantage, mainly because of the Firecracker. Since Griko doesn't have a Fireball or a Lightning or a Poison, a solid spell to take it out, and most likely not gonna have arrows either. And I was wrong about Roll Giant, actually. This is a P.E.K.K.A. Bridge spam, or more of like a P.E.K.K.A. beatdown type of deck.
We'll see how he chooses to play it from here on out. Fishboy trying to pull that Firecracker will do easily. Cannon sets up low for LCIOP.
Yeah, but yet again, I have to talk about this Firecracker. This Firecracker will get so much value in this specific matchup. It's going to constantly be a thorn in Griko's side to deal with. It's going to be tough to break through. On the other hand, look at this Hog Rider. Just slowly, continuously chip away.
And it was that last tick of the Evo Ice Spirit interrupting the Fisherman for that connection. And you saw Griko twice now, he's kind of looked up. I don't know if he's looking at something specific or just looking up, maybe hoping that there's some guardian angel out there to give him the strength to come back in this one.
And will he go for the God Sign ability? No, he decides to get the Firecracker down instead. I like this play. E-Spirit plus Rage is not enough to take out the Firecracker, and now the Skeletons have nothing to be dealt with.
Royal Ghost down there, but P.E.K.K.A getting absolutely ruined. Log to clear, Hog in. Hog is being protected by those Skellies, and this is huge damage for LCIOP.
And LCIOP, he's just locked in. He knows the job's not done. He's gonna keep attacking, keep spamming those Firecrackers, and continually getting value. On the other hand, look at Griko. He just seems, like you said, he seems distracted.
I think he seems resigned. I think he's looking at this kind of laugh and going, hey, I know what my fate is now, and it's not what I'd hoped.
Here comes Griko's last chance to really connect as there's only 20 seconds left. P.E.K.K.A with the Phoenix. Will he get a Ram Rider involved? Wait, I just realized there's a huge deck mishap here. He's missing a win condition, Rage.
Yeah,
How did I not realize that?
You said P.E.K.K.A beatdown at the beginning, and I was like, I guess maybe. Here we go, lightning in, but the Fireball takes care of business. And the last Emperor, it's not a last hurrah. He moves on in the lower bracket.
And look at the fans. LCIOP, so many fans in the crowd cheering for him. And it comes down once again to LCIOP's motto. Let me be champion again. He's here to make it happen.
And make it happen, he did. What a great performance. I love that he showed up today, right? Had a tough one against Mohamed Light, but then comes back and proves that he still has it here in this lower bracket.
I mean, great deck picks, great gameplay. I mean, LCIOP did what he needed to do, and I was very impressed with his gameplay.
Well, let's go ahead and hear from one of our all-time greats as Andrew Guy is standing by.
Those final 30 seconds of game number one, it was just crazy. How were you able to win that game?
第一回合的最终30秒非常的精彩，你怎么能够反驳，而且最终取得胜利？
因为对手的地面单位不够多，所以说后期3倍的时候很容易被我的炮车所刀塔。
I was able to win because there wasn't enough troops on the map, so I was able to actually win the game.
That's incredibly insightful, and I'd never thought of that before. You were the first player to be faced with an elimination match. How does it feel to make game number 2, or day 2?
你是第一位选手参加淘汰比赛，而且取得胜利，然后你就晋级，这个给你带来些什么感受？
我希望明天可以打得更好。
I hope tomorrow I will do better.
Okay, there we go. We shall see. Let's put it up back to the casters, Rich and Juice.
Thanks a lot, Josh. Little words from LCIOP here. It's never good enough, and I think that's one of the great things that makes him a former champion, a 5-time world finalist, 6-time qualifier, is he knows the job is always one step further.
Yeah, I mean, that's the mentality you have to have if you're really here to win. There's no relief in this win for him. He's like, no, this was not what I wanted to happen, and I can do better, and that's probably what we'll see him do tomorrow.
Found himself down in the lower bracket and took advantage, right? This was a discussion of experience versus, and look, Griko's been playing competitively at a high level now for about 4 years, but there's something different about being here. And the kind of look on his face partway through, it reminded me of the look in a movie when the villain realizes that it's all over and they kind of start laughing, going, oh, okay, yeah, you got me. That was that look right here. LCIOP taking the day, and Griko with a very short time here in Helsinki.
Yeah, and if we can bring those decks back up, if possible, I want to talk about this matchup, and specifically Griko's deck pick. I mean, he used P.E.K.K.A, he used Rage, he used all the workings of a very good P.E.K.K.A kind of beatdown deck, but he didn't have a win condition. He doesn't have a Goblin Giant, he doesn't have a Roll Giant, he doesn't have a... I'd even take a regular Giant in this situation. If he has something to directly attack his opponent's tower and use that lightning to break through, he has a chance here. But he just didn't pull the right cards here.
I mean, you have to wonder if this was the intended deck he had here, or if this was nerves on stage and just kind of blanked and put the wrong stuff in. Maybe that was part of the laughing, is he realized he kind of did it to himself, shot himself in the foot, if you will, and found himself lacking against LCIOP with a pretty solid situation. And speaking of a solid situation, someone here today was phenomenal at predictions. And I think, oh yeah, look at that guy right there in the middle.
You gotta be kidding me.
With the chain and the nice beard and everything. 5 for 5, baby, let's go.
Hey, I'll take second place. Andrew, Josh, you guys got some work to do. But, you know, all of these matches, they were close. Anything could have happened, and I'm sure we'll have more predictions go awry tomorrow.
And of course, you can play along with us making your own predictions. Go to event.supercell.com/Clash Royale. Make all of your predictions in there, and of course, you can play along, win cool in-game prizes. Let's go ahead and look at how some of your predictions might have fallen out alongside ours as we take a look at our bracket and see how it went down today, because we kicked things off with a phenomenal matchup. Mohamed Light, LCIOP went the distance, 3 games. Lucas then taking out Griko, and we get Mohamed Light, Lucas. Classic 1v1 matchup tomorrow.
And I'm wondering, what is Lucas gonna do? Because in one of his matches today, he used Mohamed Light's deck that he stole in order to win. And I don't think you can do that when you're playing against him.
Quick shout out, that was Julesy who created that deck and gave it to Mohamed. He told me just in the crowd earlier today, like, everyone's saying that's Mo's deck. I made that deck. Well, you get your flowers there, Coach. Julesy and Jebba's. We'll see if they have some big matchups as things go on throughout this competition. And of course, we do have more elimination matchups tomorrow. We have more big time stuff. All of that right here. This has been a blast. To kick things out of this place, let's go down to the floor with Andrew and Josh.
7 players remain at the end of day 1 as we say goodbye to Guriko. Our former world champions, both alive. Mohamed Light sitting pretty. LCIOP hanging on by a thread. Lucas perseveres through a tough set. Ryley proves he's supposed to be here, while Sub pulls off maybe the biggest upset of the day.
I mean, we take a look at Ryley, the only 2-0 in the upper bracket, his game number 2, his log bait, and his interview. Are you kidding me? I knew that I won as soon as I saw the Goblin Barrel. That is a level of just feeling good that I'm glad we get to see from him.
Confidence exuding from all of our surviving players. And remember, we'll be back same time, same place tomorrow for SuperFest Clash Royale World Finals Day 2. For Rich, Slayton, Joshua, AC, Sharon, Jackson, Juicy J. Wall, I am Andrew Guy. Same time, same place. Mañana.